hero play for the Unicorns of Love. They are going to secure the Baron. It cost them Hylissang's life, but now H2K looking to fire back. Xerxes is in trouble. Stunned up in mid-air from Odoamne. Gargoyle Stoneplay going to take him out to safety. Vizicachi now in trouble as he runs for his life. Clean cuts going in. So is the Glacial Prison, but it's not enough to lock down the Constable. Trundle Exile tries to fire back, but it's Fevivin who's here to play. He's looking for a little bit more damage. Samix gets taken out as well. Nuclear 1v1 against the 80 carry. Rips through him, and Vizicachi is next on the menu. H2K may have given up the Baron, but they take the fight. Backing off. Vizicachi will get stunned up. Fevivin though, and Nuclear struggling to get into position. The superior range of Tristana starting to count for them. Samix needs to make it out to safety, but Odoamne comes over the wall immediately onto Exile. The Chain CC is there, but they're still alive. The Syndra is still alive. Meching it out. No, Odoamne, the Dragon Strike finds Purchase. Jankos has a different plan. The team moving forward. Hylissang just going to use the ulti. May just get burned down here. Auto attack will stun, now running for his life. Fevivin pushing in for the kill. Knows it's going to fall off. The flash forward, the pull. But it's Hylissang who goes too far.
Still here.
Stun moving in. Flash out from Nuclear. TP on the backside. Here comes the Trundle. Exile moving in. Fevivin will get taken down, but it's a mid laner for mid laner trade. Samix is off to the side. How much damage can he do? Moving in. He's going to get burned. H2K just keep the fights going. So much confidence from this lineup. That is so tense. I'm never 100% convinced the Unicorns of Love are out of the game until they lose fight in their own base. And Hylissang, though, looking to start one. Vizicachi moving forward. Where's the equalizer going to go? Major damage tool comes in. That's going to be the stun for Exile. Leaping forward. He is going to get Che, but he's going to give up his own life in the exchange. That is the worst deal in the history of deals. And now they're pulling back, retreating as Fevivin finds yet another kill. H2K cleaning up the fight. And Unicorns of Love falling back. Samix is still alive, still holding on to hope, but it's too little, too late for the Tristana as Vizicachi drops. Odoamne still alive. Samix gonna go down, and H2K are gonna tie up the series with a triple kill from Nuclear.
Here we go. That has arrived.
Moving forward, that's going to be the combo. Moving in for a little bit more damage. Samix is in trouble. Now grounded as he tries to escape. Buster shot to bring him to safety platform from Fevivin. Equalizer going to drop. Hylissang is next on the list, and he's going to get deleted as Jankos pulls out the level 6. A beautiful dive coming in for H2K. That's the 3-for-1.
Now Fevivin getting locked up.
Trouble. Hook is going to connect. Cleanse out. Ulti comes in. Exile not going to have enough damage, though. He's taking so much back in return. Nuclear dishing it out from the backside. Now firing onto Exile, running forward, Spell Shield, that's the double kill for the Sivir. This is exactly what H2K want. Unicorns of Love may just look to turn it here. Cats go in. Yanko's not going to get stunned up. Jay is in trouble. Samix still looking to dish out more damage, looking to push forward for a little bit more. Jankos wants the kill, but the rocket jump comes off the back of that earlier kill. Does get the reset. Vizicachi running, and he's going to drop. What a bloodbath from both sides. Right now, though, it's Hylissang dictating the pace. Samix is there. Ulti coming out. Che looking to turn it around, though. Odoamne is here as well. Vizicachi is in, but he's a little bit too late already. Hylissang has dropped. Exile on the backside. Heal comes out from Samix trying to save the day. Petrifying Gaze going in. Vizicachi is going to get taken down. Double kill for H2K. Righteous Glory moving forward. Hylissang is here as well. Eyes on the hook. Blade comes back, looking to connect it. In goes the equalizer. They're trying to turn it around. He will give his life, but Unicorns of Love are hungry for blood, and out of nowhere, they find the double. Eyes on Vizicachi, has to be careful. Hook goes over the wall, not going to connect onto a priority target. Now Che looking to turn it around. Nuclear trying to get in, but is slowed down by the Sejuani ultimate. Spell Shield is up, but not going to block anything. That's the shutdown onto Xerxes. Unicorns of Love ripped apart in that exchange. Off to the side, trying to zone the team out. On the hunt has been used. That big engage combined with the ultimate. Wombo combo, baby, taking him down. Fevivin, though, may just give his life. Nuclear lays down the damage. Samix is already dead. Exile is running. H2K are cleaning up house. It's a good fight. It may just win them the game because Odo is no hesitation, TPing into the base. He sees the minion wave there. He sees his chance to bring it to match point. Vedius, H2K are wiping the floor with Unicorns of Love. It is an immaculate performance in the fight. Exile doing his best to hold on, but there's just too many members in the middle of his base for any hope to remain. He's probably going to take down Jankos. Jankos, no! Turns it around. And this is going to be the game ender. One explosive team fight. All it took for H2K to close it out. entrance. Exile caught up in the brush, Jay gonna take a tower shot, body slam flash forward, Exile in trouble, Febvin leaping in, Miasma goes down, but a beautiful trade of tower aggro. Which means H2K are gonna grab that first blood unscathed. First it was Bulls and China shops, and now it's Ivern in the jungle. And now it might just be Ottawamne on the top side of the map. Hyperproc has been initiated. If he turns Mega right here, the timing is flawless. But no, a perfect flash from Ottawamne to turn it back. TP is coming in. Febvin's still alive. That's going to be a kill from the Corki. Actually continues to happen though. Hylissang, only level 5. Exile looking for the collapse. They're going to have to turn around. Yankos is here. Everything is going wrong for Unicorns of Love, but can they turn it back? Petrifying Gaze connects on one. The Ignite burns down. Hylissang with a flash forward. Xerxes here as well. The cast looks for the disengage. Shay desperately trying to hold on to his life. TP's on the backside. Febvin's here, but no package available. Equalizer has gone down. Samix does have the Buster shot available, but he should just be done. Is going to get taken down. Another kill for H2K, but Unicorns Love already firing back. This map just continues to be played everywhere. Exile looking for the stun knockup, but Yanko's not facing the right way. Still will get taken out. Hylissang actually going to grab that one. And is this just always just going to be even? Are we just going to consistently look bottom and see them pushing waves, almost kill each other, but not quite? We're going to have to find out, because Hylissang is moving in. Exile on the way as well, but going to get knocked back. Nice disengage comes in from Yankos. Febvin taking his time, moving slow. Double TPs come out as well. Ottawamne ready for the fight. Now pulling back, Vizichachi about 50% rage, starting to charge up. Che looking for the engage. That's going to be the equalizer, but they have to be careful. They have to respect the Gnar, because here he comes! That's a Vizichachi classic. Leaping over the wall, but Febvin is still alive. He's backing off. Gnar's moving for more. That's going to be it. Tristana leaps in, knocks him back. Finisher comes in for Samix, and the triple kill going to go down. Hylissang moves in, not going to get the follow-up. Ults. Runs out the CC, but in comes the Rakan. Re-engage. Che looking to make something happen. Petrifying Gaze not going to connect, but it will hit Nuclear. He's going to go down. Samix looking to clean up house. He's going to have to pull back as the team retreats to safety, but Unicorns Love find a small win in that fight. Now they could just break open the base right here. Daisy has been summoned. That can tank the tower. Vizichachi moving forward. Out comes the equalizer from Rumble. Che once again goes in. Not enough damage present on this lineup, though. Samix leaping, hopping, ready to move into the front line. Are still pushing on the bottom side. H2K, if they want to force a fight, they need to do it here. That's the two-man knockup. Febvin's going to do a decent amount of damage, but immediate ult comes in from Exile. Febvin is in trouble, but he knows he has to take down one of these threats. It's not going to happen. Samix and Exile are alive and well. Nuclear is in trouble. Samix free hitting onto Yankos to flash forward. He's going to have the reset. Doesn't even need it. Double kill. Moving in, moving out effortlessly. Exile's exhausted, but he's still a massive threat. Ottawamne wants to turn it here. It's a good equalizer, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Febvin, it's do or die. In this moment, he wants to turn the fight back around, but Vizichachi's not going to let it happen. Exile still pushing out damage. Che is gone. Unicorns of Love are going to bring us to a Game 5. Tense moment for the squad. Oh, Rue Collar. They can all go over the wall. Oh, but wait, the turnaround. Vizichachi's actually in so much trouble right now. The Braum level 1 is insanely powerful, and now that they're on the back foot, things are going to get very difficult. Exile. They just look for the disengage. A nice start for the Unicorns of Love. One more auto.
They're going for it.
The stun. That is going to be Hylissang locked up. He needs to flash out, but first blood, the turnaround from H2K.
Along with that, so he's not exactly playing the best of the game.
Flash forward, trying to bait the flash out. Blast Cone is there. Exile goes over the wall. Bounce for Ottawamne. Moving forward. Boomerang Blade is available. Another kill drops for H2K. Box comes out. Just going to stun him up. Nice use of the wall. Hylissang biting off more than he can chew. You do not win that all-in against the Unbreakable. Ottawamne is now here
Shield?
as well. Third proc from the Hyper. Going to come in, and Febvin just going to keep chasing down Xerxes. Out comes the Shen ultimate. They don't have enough damage to burst him down. That means Vizichachi's going to get the taxi ride into the fight. But Ottawamne is off to the side. Going to knock him right back into the wall. Samix cleaned up as well. H2K pulling off an impressive fight, but Unicorns of Love do manage to fire back at the end of the day. 6-1 now the kill score. Nuclear looking to make it 7-1, does get rooted up, but Gnar, you cannot escape this champion. One more auto attack. Boomerang doesn't connect. Exile with the fancy footwork. Looks like he's gonna make it out, but the body slam flash. One more auto attack. Lantern too far away. Hook comes in. Hylissang wants to continue the play going. I don't know if this is the right choice. They do not have the damage to kill these targets. They might have enough to take down Yankos. Ottawamne now in a potential position to take out Hylissang, but he's just going to leap right over the wall. Third Hyper Brock not going to happen. Odoamne coming in, does so much damage. That is a very vulnerable Ivern. 1v2 over the wall. Odoamne trying to hold on. The flash over from Bevivin. That's a clutch play for the squad. They're going to try to keep it going. Bevivin may just drop, but the Unbreakable is beautiful. Still, he's joined to pop. The Baron is going to drop. H2K are in complete control. Hylissang waiting in the wings, looking for the flank. He's going to be the submarine for the Shen. Does manage to land the two-man flank. Instantly the follow-up. CC Unicorns love looking to turn it. Nuclear has been locked down. Spell Shield comes out. He's in the middle of the team, but he's still dishing out damage. Is he going to die? Yes, in the end. Jankos manages to get a kill back of his own. Bevivin is going to get taken down. Vizicachi trying to make the hero play. Odoamne in the back. He is ready to come in, but Vizicachi is hungry for blood. Unbreakable stops the follow-up. Odoamne wants to get the cleanup kill. Vizicachi so hungry to make the play. That's the double kill. The shutdown coming in from Odo. Now on the hunt is being used. Samus has to retreat. H2K, eyes on the prize. Not getting greedy, not going for too much. All they want is that inhibitor. Double cannon wave to back them up as well. Stacked up beautifully. It's going to be hard pressed. TP comes in from Vizicachi. He's ready to keep this going. Mid lane wave starting to collapse in. Unicorns of Love need to pick their fight. They need to pick it now. Taunt does manage to connect onto Che. Exile is so low. The team is split up by the Gragas. H2K are moving in. Hylissang is next to fall. Nuclear is still alive. He is untouched. H2K, they did not choke. They did not fall. They did not let their nemesis get them again. One last team fight to decide it all, Vedias, but here is where H2K win. Here is where H2K find victory in the best of 5, where pressure does not get the best of them, and where they will move on to face Fnatic tomorrow.
Fnatic marked the beginning of their worldwide legacy by winning the first ever League of Legends World Championship. Since then, they dominated Europe for almost 4 years.
The downfall began when their 2015 All-Star roster was torn asunder, meaning they had to rebuild, searching for their lost glory.
2017 seemed to be the year of rebirth as Fnatic finally settled on a new, yet familiar roster, made up of the veterans Reckless, Jesus, and Soaz, and the inexperienced but highly promising Caps and Broxy.
Fnatic managed to dominate the EU LCS up until Rift Rivals, when they were quickly figured out and dismantled by North American teams,
forcing Fnatic to adapt their so-called animal style into one that more closely aligns with the metagame.
Viewed by many as favorites to win the summer split, Fnatic fell short to an upset by Misfits, but picked it back up by winning a close third-place series against H2K.
Having no more time left to adapt, it is do or die for the former EU Kings to falter at the steps or finally reclaim their throne.
2016 marked H2K's most successful season as the team qualified to Worlds and managed to become the only non-Korean team to make it in the top 4, igniting fan fantasies for a strong European presence on the international stage.
With their star players delivering impressive but inconsistent early game performances, it's now a question of whether or not H2K managed to cultivate the mental fortitude required to overcome early setbacks against the best of the best.
H2K, they did not choke, they did not fall, they did not let their nemesis get them again. Here is where H2K find victory in the best of 5, where pressure does not get the best of them, and where they will move on to face Fnatic tomorrow.
Finally, man, finally. Holy shit, guys, everyone.
It all comes down to this. If you want to go to Worlds, do or die. The 2017 Regional Qualifier starts right now.
Welcome to Berlin for the final fight on the road to Worlds. Fnatic and H2K are preparing for their most important series of the split as they are looking to step onto the international stage. We are coming here live from Berlin, Germany, the last match from our studio in Berlin for 2017, and I asked myself, who would I want to share the desk with? And it's Gilius and Yamato. I think that's a pretty good setup for today.
I think so too. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be super hot fire. But let's look back on yesterday because H2K did what they hadn't done throughout all of 2017. They took down the Unicorns of Love after a very close fight and went all the way to Game 5. Yamato, I don't know, we didn't get your predictions yesterday, so had this all gone as expected for you?
Well, I didn't tell anyone, but I predicted a 3-2 for H2K. It was very obvious to me because I just saw it in a dream. No, but I had very low expectations of UL. I thought Exile won't be able to fix his champion pool, but he came up big with some champion picks, but the inconsistencies of Isichachi and Hilisang, they stayed there and stuck with the team.
Especially in the last game, that was the downfall of the Unicorns of Love, Gilius, but overall, H2K, they left a good impression on it.
Definitely. I didn't expect them to have the mental fortitude to take that Game 5. In the past, H2K has been a team that really doesn't deliver when it really matters, but yesterday they showed up, and I'm looking forward to seeing them today. Yeah,
that brought them to the final day of the gauntlet. H2K, they've now overcome every challenge so far in the regional qualifier. They took down Splice 3-0 on day 1, then they beat the Unicorns of Love yesterday, and then tonight they go up against the final boss, Fnatic. So, gentlemen, if we look at this, is it now a positive thing or a negative thing that they played so much and they prepared also, but also showed a lot?
So definitely, like, the negative sides are Fnatic has had a lot of downtime to watch all of H2K series now. 2 series. I mean, out of the Splice series, they will not get too much info because it was a stomp. But the UL series will teach them a lot about H2K. H2K pulled out all of their pocket picks yesterday, and I think Fnatic has a slight edge today.
Yeah, for sure. I think when it comes to it, I think H2K solved a lot of problems from the last time that they faced, and I think it was evident, especially in what Nuclear plays, and I think this is what's important to remember. Like, if you know your enemy has a gun and a knife, sure, it matters, but in the end, he's very well equipped for a battle.
So what did he bring?
Nuclear, he brought a Varus and an Ashe, and I think that's where he belongs.
All right, well, well, you mentioned it, these teams, they met already a couple of times in the split, but also most recently in the 3rd place decider, where Fnatic managed to take the 3-2 victory. So if we now turn it on the side of Fnatic, they've worked for this an entire year. We had a very emotional interview of Reckless in Paris that he disappointed the fans, and now this is it for all 5 players and the entire staff. They have to win this best of 5, Gilly. So, I mean, the pressure on these players must be immense.
I definitely think the pressure is on for both teams, but I think Fnatic will be better off emotionally today than they were in the 3rd place match, because Reckless actually did an interview before that match where he was crying, and that's not a thing that you want before a match, because emotions kind of create stress, and I think today Reckless will come in with a resetted mentality and show up big.
I agree that having emotions before a match can be very inconsistent because you don't know where it goes. It's something that is uncontrolled. But I think when it comes to players like Reckless, that is a proven champion, I think it comes out as a positive because I think in the series against H2K, where he really wanted to prove something, he showed up big. And I think Fnatic as a whole, as long as they don't get too comfortable, they tend to strike out hard. So I'm very happy that the game against the series against H2K went to 5 games, because if it was a 3-0, maybe Fnatic would have been in the sofa kind of mood where they just chill and they're lounging, yeah.
Well, if we take a look at H2K, I feel like we saw a lot from them now. They could keep the cool throughout the gauntlet of 5 game set. On the emotional side, they seem much better. But then we have to look on the Rift. You mentioned Nuclear before. These were, of course, weaknesses going into the gauntlet and in the playoffs. Have you seen enough improvement from that to not be a liability in this match?
I think the main thing that has been a massive change for Nuclear, it's hard to just become a better player just like that, because it was just a question of being worse mechanically, I would say. I think the main thing for H2K is their draft and what they put Nuclear on. I think he's doing fine on the Tristana, and also he does very well on the Ashe, Varus, and the Sivir, where he just pretty much needs to press R, and then he's contributing very well to his team.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I thought you had something you were just laughing at. Yumato's wit.
Press R.
Don't we all? Right, so about pressing R in the mid lane, that happens often. And if we think about strong points, possible strong points for both teams, Caps versus Febiven is a fantastic matchup. Gilius, of course, Febiven, fantastic job yesterday. Caps has been up and down, especially versus Febiven, so...
Yeah, we have a really interesting matchup in our hands here, because I think Febiven and Caps, together with Perks, are the best mid laners in Europe. Caps is more the inconsistent guy. He has really high highs, really low lows. Febiven has been really consistent this split. So I'm looking forward to seeing if we will see the really good Caps or the bad Caps.
That's the question, right? And if you're the coach also, if you know that Caps has high highs and he can grow so much taller, so to say, but you have Febiven on the other side who's just been consistent and never lose you the game. In a coach's hands, I feel like Febiven might be the more reliable way.
I feel like if you look at it at a long-term perspective, I think Caps is going to peak higher than the other 2 mid laners that we mentioned, because he's willing to take these risks that no one else is willing to take. He's very confident in himself, and he's willing to really style off and show off even against the best players. He's really willing to put himself out there, taking risks that he shouldn't really take. But that is what makes a better player in the end. I think Caps is a player that's going to peak very high, but his inconsistency, sure, right now in the current moment is a big question mark.
And the question is, how good are all these players in this moment, today, in this best of 5? So Yamato, who is going to Worlds as Europe's 3rd seed?
I think Fnatic is going to take it, because in their last series against H2K, they showed a lot more consistency in the late game decision-making, late game team fights. And I think H2K's only way in is to pressure through mid, because that is a big weakness for Fnatic. So if H2K manage to get these early kills, manage to snowball from that point on, I think H2K have a chance, but Fnatic is my vote.
I'm voting 3-1 for Fnatic. I think Reckless is absolutely gonna destroy H2K.
All right, 2 Fnatic votes from my analyst. Well, we'll see. A shot at international glory is on the line for Fnatic and H2K. Here are Dracos and the boys to get us into game.
Thank you, Shocks. I'm Daniel Dracos, here with my boys Andrew, Vedius, Day, and Martin DeFicio Henry. I mean, you are my boys. How you feeling? Final series of the EU LCS this year. You guys excited? You guys
no
ready?
better companions I could have asked for. I have a Dane, I have an American, and we've got a Welshman in the middle.
I really like you, Dracos. I think you're great.
All right. Well, luckily we're here for League of Legends and not our banter. We're going to look at Fnatic starting off on the blue side. They're fighting for that spot at Worlds. And this is a roster we haven't seen from in the regional qualifier so far. Their first best of 5 and potentially only best of 5 needed to qualify for that world stage.
Exactly, and after beating H2K in their 3rd place game, and also now being able to watch H2K play first against Spice and then against Unicorns of Love, you feel like Fnatic would have enough time and enough evidence to kind of figure out exactly how H2K likes to play the game. And let's see if they've actually found some counters today.
Because we've seen H2K on the opposite side, on the red side, looking stronger and stronger across the gauntlet. Finally took down their nemesis, is the Unicorns of Love, finding their first series victory against them yesterday, coming in on a high note.
And I'm keeping my eyes on the bottom lane this time around, because when we saw them play up against Fnatic's bottom over in Paris, they really did struggle consistently throughout that entire series, but yesterday they stepped up. Che making so many fantastic plays, and Nuclear really being able to deal the damage when it was needed allowed H2K to have a big impact in that game.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever Reckless was playing Xayah, he would win that lane with like 15-20 CS at 10 minutes and take the tower. Luckily, H2K figured out, okay, let's ban away the Xayah or give the Xayah over to Nuclear so he could have a better laning phase. But as Yamada Cannon said, he prefers Nuclear on these more utility-based champions where he can just try and help his team and set up other members to carry.
Oh, is that what he said? I think I heard him say press R.
Press R is another way to say utility carries.
All right, well, we'll see. One carry with a little bit of utility, a little bit of damage as well. It's going to be taken off Kalista. Rakan falling out in the bans. We saw Che be an absolute monster on the champion yesterday.
We've also got to focus in on those top laners because Jarvan, very prevalent in the meta right now for Soaz especially. He is pretty strong when he's allowed to get these champions. We saw in Game 5 yesterday what Odoamne could do on that particular I imagine that for those two in particular, they're going to be taken off the board in this series.
Jarvan already banned away. Xayah banned out as well. Adaptation from the third place series is still there.
Tristana still available. H2K were okay giving it over in the last series. Actually, both Unicorns Love and H2K were fine giving away that champion and sometimes even picking a Xayah above it to get the Xayah-Rakan combination. Obviously not possible because of all the bans in this one, but Tristana is still available as a potential first pick for Fnatic.
I think H2K is fine for this because as they showed yesterday, they have the Sivir as an answer. Good during the laning phase, still scales nicely into the late game too, and provides that utility that we were talking about earlier on.
And they can also take Sejuani now for Jankos, which for sure has been his #1 jungle pick. It's actually been much more impactful than his Gragas. We obviously know that Broxah is okay just taking the Gragas in return, but Sivir Sejuani would be a fairly safe rotation here from H2K. The only other option I'm also looking at is maybe Alistar.
That was the one I was thinking of, Deficio. They might want to just take it off the board because a very strong 2v2 lane for the Tristana plus Alistar, and Alistar's often considered a very strong pick into the Sivir as well.
Now paired with the Sejuani, nice comfort pick coming in for Jankos. Has looked incredibly good on it across these best-of-5 series.
And with the Cassiopeia ban, you don't have to instant lock in your mid laner here because Syndra or Orianna can wait. H2K, obviously with Febivent's pick here on the red side, could lock in their mid lane and ban away 2 from Caps, but I think Gragas Alistar here would be fantastic for Fnatic. Vidish, you already highlighted the fact that Alistar is so good against Sivir, and I actually think H2K are gambling quite a lot in not taking it. Then it tells me Morgana could be one of the answers to it with the Black Shield, but we have not really seen Che value that Morgana lately. And instead he's valued going for more tanky supports.
They may very well go for the Tahm Kench as a potential answer to the Alistar, but there's an element of risk in that you do lose a lot of pressure during the 2 versus 2 lane. And as we saw in that third place match, you really can't afford to give Reckless and Jez that kind of advantage in the bottom lane because of how much pressure they can apply.
And they go with the mid lane choice we also highlighted before, and they can now ban away 2 mid lane champions from Caps aside. Like Lucian could be one of them. Corki we've seen picked as well against the Orianna, but of course Syndra is the one champion that Caps keeps finding success on. Undefeated so far in playoffs with the Syndra.
Definitely a good look for Caps, but Orianna, one of those picks that was banned away consistently yesterday in H2K's series versus the Unicorns of Love. Have to wonder what Fnatic's go-to option is going to be for this matchup, and if they're going to get their hands on that Syndra. Feels a little unlikely to me. Cassio was also an incredibly prominent pick in the series yesterday, undefeated across the 5 games. But mid lane feels like the name of the game right now for both these lineups.
Meanwhile, on Fnatic's side, they can look at support bans if they want to. Once again, some of the defensive supports can be annoying for Alistar. Trundle is a good pick against him. We've even seen Braum being used, but Tahm Kench Morgana are some of the ones who can deny his engage. The fact that Che has not really shown this Morgana lately might mean that Fnatic just leave it open and say, you know what, we don't care about it. And it is actually kind of a flex pick they remove in Trundle support and potentially Trundle top lane.
Trundle top's one of those picks that I feel like we haven't seen as much success on in Europe, but teams have been very willing to pick it, and I think still have to give it that respect, as you mentioned, and we've seen what Jesus can do when he is uncontested, but arguably more important, Syndra now has been banned out, so the options for Caps are just now shrinking. Not a whole ton left.
Part of me wonders if he will go for the Taliyah. We haven't really seen much of the champion recently after the...
You love that Taliyah, man.
I know, because I think she's really good, and I also think that she fits the playstyle of Caps very nicely, being able to roam around the map. It is an option, but things like the Corki and Lucian, as you already said earlier, Deficio, still very strong mid lane picks. in terms of what is also left, we haven't really seen much priority on top laners for either side. We saw a lot of Maokai come out from the Unicorns of Love yesterday.
We have to remember the blind pick rumble was used quite a bit yesterday by, of course, both top laners, but that was often with Jace already like being removed. In this game here, it is the Cho'Gath being locked in for down in the top lane. He will have the speed up of the Sivir ulti to further kind of help him get into these fights, and of course the main engage is coming from Jankos.
Nice to have as well. Puts Fnatic in a bit of a pickle if they want to go
Yes!
for never mind, Aurelion Sol time. All right, there are two people in the world who I'm not entirely surprised when they pick Aurelion Sol, and that is Huhi on CLG and Caps. We've seen him play once. I'm excited to see it now, Betty, I can see you just go.
Flashbacks. No, but the first thing that comes to me is flashbacks. Quarterfinal in spring, Fnatic versus H2K. We saw the Aurelion Sol come out from Fnatic, and H2K, they had no answers. Utter destruction came out from Caps when he was playing this champion. The first time he brought it out was in Challenger. He got himself a pentakill on it. This is a champion that was made for him. And I'm really excited to see him bring it out in this draft once more.
So much engaged now as well. Two major damage threats, an exciting composition coming in from the side of Fnatic. But H2K, they've got that terrifying Sivir, Braum combo, Braum, Sejuani as well. There are a lot of ways to start fights, a lot of tools to disengage as well. And I want to look at what each of these compositions is looking to do.
And I feel like whenever we see a good Aurelion Sol, it's just so hard to play against. It's so impactful in the games. It changes the entire way you're playing the map, because whenever you're trying to push a side lane, you're kind of thinking to yourself, oh wait, there might be an Aurelion Sol flying over a wall. I just looked up the Season 7 stats around the world for Aurelion Sol. Picked 14 times, won 10 games, only lost 4. Fantastic win rate for a champion across the world, and it's because there's so few players who can actually play it. But when they do, they tend to just carry the games.
Excited to see it. Last time we saw it in the hands of Caps was not just the quarterfinals Vedius, but the semifinals up against G2.
And perm banned right after.
Exactly. Do not want to deal with it. Unconventional pick, not one that teams are ready for, but definitely not out of the meta just because it's not powerful enough. Have to see what it can bring to the table. This is your chance. Head on over to Twitter at LOL Esports, hashtag FNC win or hashtag H2K win. Let us know who you think is going to take the series and the third seed for Europe at Worlds.
It's a rematch of the third place match in Paris. H2K, they fell short, but they went to all 5 games, and today that's what I'm hoping for once more. The full 5, all the way. That's how we should end the EU LCS of summer.
I'm ready, Vedius. Here we go. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. Game 1. Fnatic coming in on the blue side. H2K on the red. Taking eyes on the mid lane, Vedius. Junglers are going to be important as well, but while we're waiting for this laning phase to kick off, I want to talk about Aurelion Sol and Orianna.
Yeah, forget junglers right now, Dragos. It's all about these mid 2. Purely because this is actually a really good matchup for Aurelion Sol. He has one of the strongest level 1 pushes in the game thanks to his W. Basically, he's just going to pop it, and he's just going to stand in lane. Orianna is just going to have a really rough time, constantly being forced underneath her tower by the constant push that Aurelion Sol has. And one of the big advantages that he also has is that Orianna has to get quite close to you in order to do a fair amount of damage, which means that as long as Caps just focuses on wave clearing and zoning the Orianna away, it's going to be really difficult for Featherven to really apply pressure against the A-Sol.
I want to zoom away from just the 1v1 between the Aurelion Sol and the Orianna and talk also about Caps, you know, when it comes to roaming, because that's of course the main purpose of Aurelion Sol. It's not to solo kill whoever you are facing. Top lane, he has CC set up from a Maokai. Bot lane, there's a Alistar who can always combo a Sivir. She cannot spell shield the full combo from Alistar. So there are 2 lanes he can roam to where there is some setup. Now, one of the problems for Aurelion Sol and why some players do not like him at the moment is because against tanks, it's somewhat difficult for him to deal enough damage. It's obviously very good against squishy targets. With the full combo, you can almost burst them down. But at Cho'Gath and a Sejuani in the late game, they don't really care too much about Aurelion Sol's damage. So he needs to do well early on in the game and start getting some advantages.
Braum's shield is also going to be really obnoxious because it can mitigate a lot of the damage coming out from the Aurelion Sol. And as you rightly said, so many frontline options that he's going to have to struggle to deal with. Means that a lot of the damage reliance will be on Caps around the mid-game. So it's going to be important for Caps to move around to this lane. It looks like that rather than go for an early push, he's just going to keep things fairly even for the time being.
I think getting a level 2 for Alistar in the bottom lane could signal one of the early roams down to try and kill Nuclear and Che. That's the thing about Aurelion Sol is you can even talk about level 1 roams.
You can,
You can roam at any time in the game, and that's one of the scary things. He's looking top for now.
already off.
He has a ward though. He's probably just here to get some vision on where Jankos is, and that is exactly what he's noticing. Actually, Jankos is hiding in the brush, but he's picking it.
Not 100% confirmed there, but we'll have a general knowledge of where Jankos is going to be. Move back to the mid lane. Fev's still holding his own, but as you mentioned, Vedius, not quite as aggressive with the Celestial expansion until now. He's trying to bully him out at least a little bit.
The trick with Aurelion Sol is every time the Orianna tries to walk towards you, you always walk slightly back because she's always going to be just out of range with your max use of the W. Now, we have a lot of trading down in the bottom lane.
He's playing pretty aggressive. We talk about the potential for Aurelion Sol to snowball some of these lanes. I think bot lane is one of the lanes we have to talk about because we have seen such fantastic performances coming in from Reckless across their previous series in the third place match.
Exactly, like #1 in so many different stats. The Summer Split MVP as well, and really stepped up even more in playoffs, where it was very clear that Fnatic had to rely a lot on him because Caps was often the target for early ganks, and he would fall behind, and then the main damage dealer and the main carry would be Reckless.
Nuclear now in trouble, leaping past, trying to make it past the Unbreakable. Exhaust is down. Nuclear running for his life. Reckless hungry for the kill. Is this going to be the first blood taken down?
And it happens once again. We talked so much about how the bottom lane of H2K fell short to Reckless and Jez's in Paris, and already 4 minutes into the game, they get themselves first blood.
And when we look back, Reckless across the split, the one champion that has constantly been in his pool is the Tristana. Even in the Kennen era, when that was banned away, he did not get to play it a single time in playoffs. But now in the regional qualifier, he's getting his hands on it again, and it's looking good. Moving for more. That's the second kill.
Just like in Paris in Game 1, Fnatic's bottom lane destroy Nuclear and Che. H2K, they had the option to take that Alistar for themselves to avoid this all-in on a Civet. They didn't do it. They let it open. Okay, so they're playing against it. And now look how Reckless will try and jump past the Braum shield after the all-in has already happened. So he appears on the other side of Che, meaning he can still hit Nuclear. There's just no way for Nuclear to really fully avoid this engage, because whenever the all-in comes from Alistar, the headbutt will absorb the spell shield, and then the knockup will land right after that. And Che's trying to be a good support, hold the wave for his AD carries on the way back, but he's taking too much damage.
That was a very greedy play there from Che. Didn't respect Reckless's ability to roam, and speaking of roaming...
Oh, the action does not stop. First appearance from Aurelion Sol in another lane. Maokai is here. Star Surge goes in. A little bit of damage. Celestial expansion should be able to clean this one up. Flash forward from Caps. Brings it back in. Yet another kill for Fnatic.
Febiven is on his way. He's only level 5, however, and Jankos is not there just yet. Febiven will just have to take the wave, and as we mentioned here, there's CC set up in top lane, CC set up in the bottom lane. So Caps is set up to succeed in this game here, as long as he can keep leaving his mid lane.
And I love seeing this playstyle from Caps, because one of the big things we talked about for Fnatic was jungle pressure from Broxah. Is he investing his resources mid? Where is he trying to gank? And we saw a lot of success for Fnatic when Caps was the one being invested into, because the bottom lane can very often hold their own. If you can just get a few resources onto this mid lane, this young individual that has proven himself, then you can really do successfully. But now he can actually move across the map, and he's already doing it so far.
Right, and with the bottom lane winning on its own 2v2, with the fact that Caps can then focus top lane, you can very quickly get 3 pushing lanes for Fnatic, where suddenly H2K are pushed so far back on the map, it's very hard to do anything. Sejuani wants to get level 6 before she really joins in. The Cho'Gath, we know he's a slow scaler up in the top lane as well, so H2K might find themselves under so much pressure in this early game that they can barely do anything.
And back in champions like Vedius, you brought the Talia, a roaming champion. Aurelion Sol still that roaming champion. Maybe not what you expected. Definitely giving Caps the edge. To check the itemization as well.
He's back top lane.
Coming out. He is on a mission. It's going to be the lock up to CC. Star Surge moves forward. That's a body slam to follow up. Odoamne, you wanted to play League of Legends. Sorry. That's too much chain CC.
Repeated ganks up in the top lane. The flash is unavailable for Odo. The setup is there from Broxah, and so as Caps has more than enough damage to get the follow-up. And Fnatic, they're off to a great game 1.
And I have a sneaking suspicion this is going to look a lot like the series versus G2 in spring semifinals, in the sense that he's not going to get to play Aurelion Sol again, guys.
Well, the big thing to remember is that right now, Caps is doing well. He's been able to move around the map, but it's also because of the comp that's built around the Aurelion Sol. We talked a lot earlier on about how he has the setup. You have a Maokai with all the CC. You have a Gragas too, who can provide that additional bit of damage and utility in the early game, and your bottom lane is winning the 2 versus 2. So the whole comp around Caps is enabling him to play this kind of style as well.
I just love the fact that I've been kind of poking Caps the entire split, being like, where's your Aurelion Sol? Come on, we want to see the Aurelion Sol. He's like, no, I'm saving it for Faker. That's what he kept saying. Now I think he realized that he might have to use it here against H2K to even get to play Faker.
Slayer, you know?
Faker Slayer, that also counts, but if he wants to move on to the phase we can actually face SKT, he needs to win this best of 5 today, and that's why he's pulling out that Aurelion Sol, saving it for an entire split for this best of 5.
And this has to feel good for Fnatic. Once again, this is the series that will send them to Worlds if they can win it. No hold barred, not holding anything back here against H2K.
And you know that probably the H2K coach is sitting backstage right now looking at all his pick and ban plans and being super annoyed, because suddenly if you feel like you're forced to ban Aurelion Sol in every single game, it just changes so many things, because those 3 planned bans you had on each side, they're suddenly gone right now because there needs to be room for that Aurelion Sol. And it's a tough one now for H2K, but obviously this game is not completely over just yet. It's just looking very difficult for H2K to win.
So let's talk a little bit about H2K. They've got Sivir, they've got the late game potentially on Orianna, but how do they stop the bleeding? How do they stop Caps from just continuously making an impact in all these lanes?
Well, one of the key things is being able to have vision on some of the entrances to your half of the jungle. You can see that in the top side, H2K have already put some wards through the river, so they can be a little bit more prepared for when Caps try to move around the map. And the other thing is, Jankos needs to be a little bit more aware of when he can try and get those counter ganks off too. He's invested a lot of time to the bottom side, as Caps is already making his way top. They read it, but I don't know if they can react in time.
Still no flash.
Forward, Comment of Legend, Star Surge moves in. Good damage onto Odoamne, trying to do what he can. Voice of Light comes out to knock him back. The silence does stop the Stars for a brief moment. Caps is pushed back, so Odoamne is going to hold on. Flash out for Broxton to make it to safety. This is punting Che out of the fight. Jankos there as well. Needs to hit the blast cone if he wants to stop the escape. Jesus still has ult, still has flash, folks. Should not be dangerous. But it looks like he may just get taken down. If he flashes over, the ball is there waiting for him. Jesus is going to drop. Well played by H2K.
But Fnatic still get themselves the first tower of the game. Yes, they end up losing Jesus, but it doesn't cost them much as Caps.
Fantastic sidestep. Double Star Surge. Should still be taking down the flash forward. That's going to be it. H2K firing back immediately.
So right there, H2K actually have the support being topside already, and good roam from Febiven as well to try and match the Aurelion Sol. Fnatic ended up diving too deep to try and kill Odoamne and just didn't have follow-up damage. Source couldn't join the fight. And suddenly H2K actually responded with 2 kills. And talking about them being pushed down and how difficult it is, getting 2 kills like this is huge for them. Sadly, they still end up losing 2 towers because they were basically losing these lanes before that play happened.
And now at 10 minutes, we see more than 2K gold, almost 3K gold in the favor of Fnatic. Pretty terrifying prospect.
And your eyes are now just being drawn towards Febiven, because while Caps has been roaming around the map, trying to set up both his side laners, he has been falling at a slight deficit in terms of farm. And now the fact that Febiven has picked up 2 kills of his own, completing the Morellonomicon at 10.5 minutes in the game, is a very early power spike for this Orianna to hit.
And the thing is, when you play against Aurelion Sol, often it can be hard to try and counter gank the side lanes. So you actually often want to try and go mid yourself and just try and fight against the Aurelion Sol head on. If you can use Sejuani ultis to try and maybe force Caps out a lane, maybe you can secure a kill with your very fed Orianna now, then you actually get a lot of pressure mid and you can try and get the mid tower. It's just so hard to do because he leaves that lane so often, and he's also running cleanse in this game. He's trying to avoid that all in from Jankos.
We look at how far behind some of these individual laners are. Odoamne, especially on the top side, really struggling up against the Maokai. This is not where H2K want to be whatsoever. Luckily for them, Jankos is finally putting attention to the top side. But when we look back to yesterday, Odo was the key player in so many of those games for H2K, but now in this deficit, it is going to take him a long time to come back.
Yeah, and funny enough, Odoamne stepped away from Cho'Gath yesterday. They banned it against Unicorns a lot every single game they played, and he was on champions like Gnar, where he was actually super impactful and he could do more in the early to mid game. This one here, I don't even think Odamne played poorly. I just think he was left in a situation where it's almost impossible to do anything. You're against like a CC champion right in front of you in Maokai, a roaming Aurelion Sol, and a jungler that camps you.
And that's the thing, right?
Like,
no one's
what are you
scared of
gonna do?
Maokai in the laning phase. They're scared of who's ever coming to do the damage while Maokai holds you down.
So Odamne couldn't really do a whole lot. It was all about trying to control the Aurelion Sol in the mid lane. But they didn't manage to do that early. They got 2 kills though. That's something for H2K. They need more.
And Vedius, the early Morellonomicon did come out, but I feel like Caps just doesn't have to trade against Fevin. He has enough mana now that he just ignores him, just pushes the lane.
Yes, you're right. In terms of the 1v1, it doesn't mean a huge amount because Caps is never going to try and kill him or fight him. But in terms of the actual fights, it's a very big deal for H2K because you have to remember that their composition is built around fighting, playing around things like the Baron, the Dragon, just forcing Fnatic into these 4 5v5s where Caps will have less of an impact against these big tanks is where H2K still have that ability to come back into the game.
And H2K have to surrender the Rift Herald here, not because of Aurelion Sol, but because the bottom lane from Fnatic, Reckless and Jess, is pushed out to the lane, moved up into mid lane. Actually, Yankees was trying to steal it.
Forward, not going to get it.
Ooh, that's risky.
Broxah grabs it. H2K not in a position to contest. Caps playing with fire as he walks back and forth there. Will use the Common of Legend to make it out to safety. Back to the middle lane. But I like that H2K are still trying to fire shots, still trying to come back into this game. Does connect on Jez's. Worst person, though, to hit in this instance.
Ult for ult trade as H2K now start to group up in the middle lane. They just wanted to push it out, get some pressure. They do now have vision around the river, but it's not really going to do them much as they've already lost the Rift Herald.
And I think the thing we're forgetting about is that the top side of the map, they're fighting back and forth. Yes, H2K are in a deficit, but if we look at the bottom side, we look at Reckless versus Nuclear right now. Nuclear was not a weak point against the Unicorns of Love, I think it's safe to say. But here, against Reckless, that is a big issue for H2K.
And it's one of the reasons they did struggle in the 3rd place game down that bottom lane. And it's hard as a team if you pick, you know, what you consider a fairly safe lane, the Sivir-Braum combination. They used it yesterday as well. It was actually fairly successful because they had so much protection to just not die in the laning phase.
Yep.
You then still go in and you die so early. Just 2v2, no junglers, nothing was there. Completely outplayed because of the Alistar engage and then Reckless jumping past the Braum shield. It makes it so difficult for the rest of H2K to play this game here. Jankos constantly needs to look at all these lanes that are getting pushed in, and if he knows if he ganks anything, he might just get counter-ganked instantly and die.
When we look at gold leads right now for Fnatic, half of it into the back pocket of Reckless, the other half in SOAS. Caps is in a little bit of a deficit comparatively, is suffering in the CS department. Fevin in control of that lane.
But what Fnatic are trying to do now is get that mid lane tower down. So ideally they can move Reckless and Jess to mid lane and then use the Rift Herald at the same time. So they have like a 5-man group or 4-man group to push in the objective. H2K, they know they need to just protect mid lane. If you keep playing around mid, Aurelion Sol will lose a lot of his value. And that's what H2K have been doing for the last few minutes to stop the bleeding, is constantly protect the mid lane.
And notice how they're moving Nuclear between mid and bot all the time. So you have that additional bit of wave clear from both the Orianna and the Sivir too, making it that bit harder for Fnatic to get the optimal setup to then use the Rift Herald. But now they're trying to extend a bit of their own vision so that they can apply a little bit more pressure and try to set up the play.
Of course, vision on Broxah does give H2K an open ticket to the bottom side of the map into Fnatic's jungle. But right now it is just a vision trade. A little more control for H2K on one side, a little more for Fnatic on the other.
The thing is, Reckless and Jess is still around mid. Now they're using that Rift Herald we just talked about with the AD carry and support there. After bot lane had been pushed in and Nuclear to clear it, this is the setup to get that mid lane tower. Nice zoning ult from SOAS.
Already ulted, not just going to be zoning, going to connect on multiple members, pushing in. Voice of Light just keeps them knocked back. Not going to have any chance to approach the tower.
Easy take from Fnatic. Played that very cleanly. All they had to do was be patient, wait for the right moment, and they take down that final tier 1. Now the tier 2's become a little bit harder to take down, but with the gold lead that Fnatic have been able to build up for themselves, only 16 minutes into this game, they're feeling pretty happy with how things are going.
Reckless can actually stay in side lanes for basically, you know, the entire mid game because he knows whenever he's pushing the side, Aurelion Sol can join before an Orianna can join. These fights are even going to try and find Jankos.
Oh, Jankos is going to get knocked back. Good aggressive play coming in from Broxah and Jez is together, but Nuclear is there. Throwing out a few autos, but on the hunt in the end, burn just to get Jankos to safety.
So a bit of a trade there for a Gromp. Fnatic, they wanted to try and get something. At the very least, a flash from Jankos would have been nice. But they will just take Nuclear's ultimate instead. And as you already said, Reckless now continuing to push in the bottom lane. And he now knows that there's no jungle support there as well.
And we want to see Fnatic just go instantly for Drake. Like, keep stacking as many Drakes as possible. If you can't kill tier 2 towers, take all the objectives in the river. 2 or 3 Drakes for yourself, then you start focusing Baron right after, and you're setting yourself up for success when an Elder Drake spawns if you haven't finished the game by then. So the timing is important. It doesn't matter which Drake it is, you just want to kill it so you can now get the next Drake, which of course could be an Infernal Drake, and funny enough, it is for Fnatic this time around. So there's a chance to get double Infernal while keeping this big advantage. Reckless push the bot lane, no one can stop him, and Caps can always roam down in case he's needed.
Reckless just maintaining that 30 CS advantage at this point in the game. Baron not on the table yet, as you mentioned, but an Infernal will be up shortly. Baron 3 minutes away. Rift Herald taken up. That means it's going to be a little bit harder for Fnatic to find objectives to play to, but they definitely have the gold lead. H2K still can't afford to take fights. So Wes may still have to be careful here. He is the only member on the top side of the map. Only the threat of the missing members of Fnatic stops H2K from going for this game.
But it's now that point in the game where it's a lot of patience. The game will slow down a lot more, and it becomes a battle of vision, because you are correct, right? The Baron hasn't spawned. Even when it does spawn, that doesn't mean that Fnatic instantly want to try and rush it down. It's all about now just extending your vision line deeper and deeper. Maybe try and find those picks, but primarily stealing away whatever you can from the H2K side and looking for those opportunities of single players maybe being alone in the side lane.
And Nuclear, of course, is the single player alone in the side lane. You saw Reckless hiding over the wall, waiting to make a play. And I gotta say, it's not a Kennen, but this does feel a little bit like early season Fnatic. Maybe not quite as aggressive. No Shen, not 100% playing around Reckless, but Reckless doing his best to make it happen either way.
I think they're still for H2K. They're doing kind of the only thing they can do right now is just protect tier 2 towers, try and get some of your jungle camps and get defensive vision. And all you're kind of hoping for is that Fnatic will overstep at some point, and then you get that big punish where suddenly 2 or 3 guys from Fnatic maybe engage without backup, and you can TP in, you can re-engage with Jankos or Che. For now, they just have to accept that it's relying on Fnatic's mistake more than H2K's outplay.
Still a little bit poking. Trying to get everything they can. That is, you already mentioned it earlier. Fighting for every little thing. Last time
He even ults for the Raptor. Wow, okay. I think that's taking the strat a little to the extreme.
Look, Vedius, farm is really important, and he's competing against Reckless right now, and that's like not a fair fight. So you gotta make it count, man. You gotta be willing to ult those Raptors.
Nuclear even gives over the red buff to Jankos. That might be a, you know what, I don't want to risk holding onto this buff, or maybe he just thinks that he can have a little bit more value on it. But interesting, they've moved Odo now into the Reckless lane. And that's giving Fnatic a little bit more confidence.
You can see why Odo Wamne, despite having the Righteous Glory, still takes so much damage. 2 items completed by the Tristana, not even 20 minutes into the game, and still more gold in his pocket.
I would like Broxah to be on the bottom side here, not the top side, just to constantly protect Reckless and Jesse so they can actually get damage on the tier 2 tower, because we know the TP can come in from source, and we know Aurelion Sol can move within a few seconds. They only need Broxah to be on that side. He's the only one who can just instantly jump across the map, and he's here now to set up another push and a blue buff steal.
Jankos got the red buff. Thought that it might be safer hands. Might not be anymore. Cloud Drake giving him a bit of extra movement speed. Now moving forward. That's the aggressive engage. Cask not going to connect.
Oh, let's see. Okay, he gets out. Like, we've been praising Fnatic a lot, but I think right here, this is a bit sloppy from them. Like, there's no way H2K should be able to get a blue buff on the bottom side where Reckless is sitting with a 2-0 Tristana.
Aurelion Sol is poking down, but there is no wave here. Fnatic just grasping at straws on the bottom side, looking for some kind of bigger advantage.
I feel like Fnatic are getting a little antsy right now. They only have to play the patient game. They're the ones in control of the map. You can see they've got a lot of vision invested into the bot side. They had the ability to at least take control, and instead they're giving these small things over to H2K.
Yeah, they simply just needed Broxah to be on bot side, get vision around that blue buff, completely denied from H2K, and then let Reckless get a few more hits on bot lane tower. That's all they needed to do until Baron or this Infernal Drake were ready to be taken. Nuclear, for some reason, is pushing forward.
Oh, Buster shot comes in. Reckless with a solo kill onto Nuclear.
And that's another way you can get that
that's
tower.
an alternative
That's
option.
how you do it. You just rely on the enemy AD carry to walk forward and die.
It wasn't Broxah that was the problem, it was Nuclear. He wasn't in the right position to get solo killed.
So now Fnatic, they're going to extend their lead even further. They've been able to take their 4th tower of the game to H2K's 0. And this was one of the big points that we had coming into this cast. How will Nuclear and Shade perform against Fnatic's bottom lane once again? We wanted to see them get some kind of strong 2v2 lane. They decided not to go for it, and already falling short. And it's just Fnatic's bottom lane taking full control right now. It gives all the freedom for Caps and Soaz to do literally whatever they want. And now Jankos is finally trying to get something back, but it's a Tristana. It's extremely difficult to punish.
But smart enough, smells it. He's been there too many times before, knows that he needs to back off. Fnatic still pulling out so many big advantages. 6K gold lead 20 minutes into the game. 2 Dragons backing them up. Could easily win the fight for the Infernal.
Now Fnatic should just send Regulus back to bot lane, push it out one more time, secure the Infernal Drake, and then swap Regulus to top side of the map. Let him push the top lane all the way to that tier 2 tower and start setting up for Baron. The composition is strong enough. You have a tank in the Gragas who just needs a bit of armor to fully stand in front of this Baron here and protect his carries. And then suddenly you can guarantee full river control again. And Regulus and Jesus will do exactly that. We just need the Infernal Drake to spawn in 15 seconds, and they should be able to guarantee a third one. I want to see if H2K wants to fight, though. They have 2 items on Febivin. They did it yesterday against Unicorns a lot. Sorry, against Spice, where they pulled the trigger. When they were behind, they were pushed down, and they actually came back in the game because of it. Problem is, you're pushed back in so many lanes, it's difficult to do. And your AD carry is also top lane.
Maybe just hoping to get a tower. Trade it for the Drake. They know it did just spawn. Reckless going to start to solo it. The rest of Fnatic is moving to the mid lane. They see H2K aren't going to contest and are not concerned about committing any more resources there.
It actually is probably the best thing they could do. You know they're going to get Infernal Drake. You don't feel like you can fight it because you're pushed back. Just take a tower. Trade a tower for the Drake. Get some gold for your team. It's the first one they get in this game, the first out of turret for H2K.
And if it results in the second item for Nuclear, then I think it's fine for H2K, because now Reckless, he's at 3 items. That's basically a very deadly Tristana. They don't even need the Ardent Sensor. You're already going to be extremely strong the moment these fights kick off. And when you think about killing that front line, yeah, that front line's got to be really scared, especially with the little armor that they have to deal with this Tristana right now.
Gargoyle Stoneplate on the way, but since it's not completed, it's going to be a tough ask for Ottawamne and Jankos to really survive Reckless in the front lines.
Now we see Reckless push top lane, move into river. We got to see all the control wards coming down from Fnatic. Start getting full river control, and H2K's way back in this game here is to win a fight around the Baron or maybe get a smite steal from Jankos to delay the game even further and get Sivir into the late game. Fnatic should not allow this to happen. They should have full control of this jungle. Reckless even gets... No, actually, Che got the red buff.
Not full control because Che got the red buff. And those are the
small
little
wins, man. You do not want to give that red buff over to the enemy AD carry, so small win.
Really, that's all H2K can play for. The trade, Dragon for tower, red buff stolen away. Not a lot of other options right now on the map.
But for Fnatic, their option is pretty clear. Start to pressure this Baron area, getting vision around the top side, playing around the objective, and either force H2K to come and check it, where you can either get yourself a pick or maybe force a favorable fight when Nuclear is at such a disadvantage to his opposition AD carry. Alternatively, they can just rush it down, depending on whether H2K want to try and commit. And right now, it feels like H2K, they're very aware. They do not want to give up this Baron because it will result in their base falling apart.
I think Fnatic could have actually reset there, gone back to base, restock up on control wards, and then returned out on the map. But they seem like actually all of H2K just walked away from the Baron. They have one ward outside it, but they need to move fast.
So the single ward is going to give it away. Jankos is here, Nuclear here as well. Fnatic, though, not taking nearly as much damage from the Baron as expected this early in the game. They now see the TP ward. Fnatic are now backing off. 2K health on the Baron. Shogat is in the middle of the team. He's going to take so much damage, but the Gargoyle Stoneplate is keeping him healthy. Jez is looking for the disengage, taking a lot of damage back in return. That been over the wall, does use the shockwave. Jay blocking what he can. H2K are holding on. Fnatic still alive, but the Baron not going to drop.
Really good unbreakable there from Jay to keep Ottawamne alive. It blocked the ultimate from Caps, which means that both top laners TP'd in, both used Flash as well. They did what they could to just stall for their own teams, but it was H2K that was able to prevent Fnatic from taking down the Baron.
Exactly, Fnatic did not go back and get all the new wards to try and fully clear out the vision. They said, you know what, H2K seem to have left the area. We can try and rush it. I think actually overall it was a fine call from them, but H2K with good defense so far, and very importantly, they delay the game a bit. Problem is for them, whenever they recall, they know there's a chance this Baron gets rushed down. There's also an Infernal Drake coming up for a third one for Fnatic. They're starting this Baron once again.
Fnatic assuming that the recalls have already come through for H2K, but they are here. Odoamne on the way, but no TP means he could be too late to the party. Eyes on Jankos, the pressure on in this series to steal this away. Soaz is going in, Jankos is going to get interrupted, will not make it over the wall, but the fight is no longer about the Baron. Che pushed back, Unbreakable, going to keep him safe. Fnatic still in control of the pit.
But once again, H2K stopped the Baron from going down. It was a good interrupt there from Jez's to deny Jankos getting into the pit, but the only summoner spell that was used was the flash from Che. H2K holding on to this Baron very effectively, and this is largely because Fnatic are not pushing their vision deep enough. They're always just starting off the Baron, allowing H2K to come, and then trying to make the fight happen around the objective itself.
The good thing though for Fnatic is they always push the lanes first. So H2K get denied quite a lot of CS in these side lanes while they're busy trying to stop the Baron. And Fnatic don't actually fully use too many like flashes or ultis while fighting around it because they are in full control. Now H2K needs to push back the lanes. Fnatic can go grab them once again. And again, worst case for Fnatic, they just go down and get that third Infernal Drake and then go right back to the Baron. So they're technically not that much on the clock just yet. Mainly also because they have a Tristana who's super fed.
And of course, we are still at least 10 to 15 minutes away before that Sivir becomes a late game win condition. Orianna is getting stronger, 3 items now completed. But it's going to take a lot of ults hitting a lot of people simultaneously for H2K to come out on top in one of these fights right now. Difficult ask going up against Reckless with his long range. Doesn't really have to be next to anybody.
Remember that TPs are still down as well. The thing about Aurelion Sol is he can just push out the bot lane, and because of his mobility, can very quickly roam up towards the Baron. And Odo, he won't have that same ability on the Cho'Gath. So as long as Fnatic can play with the fact that both top laners have TPs down, they will have this pressure and force H2K to always lose this farm in the bottom lane.
Moving in though, Odoamne could be the one that's caught out. No flash. Now in trouble as he's going to get pulled back. Unbreakable is nowhere near Odoamne. Che does move forward to keep him alive. Disengage, trying to come out. Nuclear uses on the hunt. Desmond hits back with the shockwave, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. Reckless still at half health. H2K being pushed back, but it's a slow, grindy team fight. Che, the only casualty.
Fnatic, they just force a fight straight onto Odoamne. He doesn't have his flash due to the last fight. He tried to use the stone play, but Fnatic were relentless. They take down that front line, and they even get the flash from Jankos. So now they feel very confident to start this Baron.
Oh, Source is hiding behind H2K in case they try and go in and fight this Baron here. He's moving his way down now, trying to get onto Febiven.
Eyes for the twisted advance. Caps now moving forward. Who's he going to lock up? Knows there's no spell shield on Febiven. He's going to get pushed back. Nice flail comes in from Jankos to slow up the competition.
Stop the Baron again though here from H2K's side. Even getting a bit of damage in the mid lane tower. We've seen these team fights here how Caps is not able to assist with that much damage against the big front line of H2K, so they're very much just relying on Reckless at the moment. Third Infernal Drake is alive, but that big wave in the bottom lane is already at the tower. Same for top lane. It's a lot of minions dying right now that H2K do not get to kill. But though will get some.
Yeah, it's going to be good news for Odoamne. Can use the feast once again to grab yet another stack. Fnatic seeing this opportunity are going to move forward. Jankos does not want to give this up, but he's going to have to. Triple Infernals for Fnatic in the hands of Reckless on Tristana. That is a terrifying prospect.
Fnatic have had good control over these Infernal Drakes. A lot of it has come down to the success of the bottom lane of Fnatic, who once again have been able to perform. Consistently dominating their opposition in Nuclear and J, and now once again Fnatic move back towards this Baron. They are yet to really take it. They're still struggling to properly set up deep vision around the top half of H2K's jungle, but they feel pretty confident to try and force a fight right now.
They've made sure there was no 50-50. Jankos has done a very good job always kind of hovering just behind the Baron, being like, yeah, if you get it low enough, I will get in there and I will try and steal it. And then Fnatic just disengage away from it. Of course, they can use Alistar to maybe deny him, Brox's ulti. There are ways to try and knock Jankos away now that there's no flash on the Sejuani, if they want to start the Baron again. But of course, they need good vision behind the Baron pit to do that, and it's always a risk.
And looking at this game, from the expectations we had from this series, we thought a lot of differences in macro strategy, thought the teams would play it out, but we have to look back. Fnatic built this lead on individual skill on the bottom side of the map, and it's crazy. Now we're at the much calmer macro game, but this is not what we expected from the early game. The Aurelion Sol pick coming in, the surprise pick coming out, the dominance on the bottom side looking good as well.
4 items now for Reckless. It's a little terrifying, Drakos. Being that strong on a Tristana at 31 minutes into the game.
We've been here as the composition full of tanks against the 4 to 5 item AD carry.
We have.
H2K will have to rely on February. 2-0. They're actually looking for a fight as well. Already in Soul in the mid lane might get caught out.
Now Star Surge going the wrong way, but not even needed. It's just gonna make it to safety.
It's important the fact that it actually gives more movement speed for Caps when he follows it in that direction. So he's using it just to escape, as like a mini ghost, basically, to get out of range of the Cho'Gath knockup. Mr. Fnatic now knows there's no Sivir ulti, was used just before. They're now starting the Baron. No flash on Jankos to try and get over that pit easily. He has to dash over it, and that can get denied.
So as using the blast cone as an escape and will deny another entrance opportunity for Jankos. Another TP being burnt. Fnatic still not going to try to burn this down. They are going to force the fight though here. Feast does it. H2K are going to snag the Baron. They're flashing out to safety. So much damage in the pit as well. H2K, no on the hunt means they cannot chase this one down, but a beautiful steal from Odoamne.
Love the decision making there from H2K. They realize, you know what, let's just burst it. We're tired of playing around this Baron. They go for the commitment. The feast from Odoamne, the smite from Jankos, followed up by a great 5-man shockwave from Febiven. Everything just comes together to allow H2K to walk away with the Baron.
Yeah, that Baron dropped so low that when H2K jumped into the pit to keep it in the action here, it actually didn't reset. And suddenly, Odoamne is like, yeah, I got Feast. It's better than Smite.
And up until this moment, I felt like Fnatic were in perfect control, but they just got the Baron too far down.
And they tried to do the same thing again, where they disengaged to avoid the steal. But because Odoamne TP's into the pit and the Baron did not reset, he actually gets in range to just feast it in. Fabian with a 5-man ulti just to make sure the Fnatic will not chase.
And the Baron was at 1,682 HP. Odoamne pressed R, and it was gone. There's no way you're going to outsmite that. There's nothing that you can do about it. The most obnoxious thing about the Cho'Gath is that threat around the Baron.
The question is, how much can H2K get back while they have this Baron buff up? They are still behind Fnatic. Triple Infernos are going to count against them, but this is a much better look than they've had for the rest of the game.
And they finally got IH completed for Nuclear. It's taken quite a while for him to get there, but he can actually start dealing some serious damage. But Fabian, of course, is the main carry on this Orianna here. Death Cap should be ready for him fairly soon. Sitting on 1,600 gold at the moment. Need a bit more.
I think you need about 2550 if you've only got the... oh no. Never mind. Now for H2K, they can just continue to stall if they need to. I've just completely forgotten how much.
Rule number one, don't do math on cast.
No, I'm pretty sure it's 2550 if you've only got the Rod of Ages.
Needlessly large rod.
Yeah, that one, yeah. I don't remember words.
It's full price if you only have a rod of Ages.
Regardless, now H2K, they can just continue to stall out. They don't need to force anything right now. They want to wait a little bit longer to complete a few extra items. Exactly, the Death Cap.
It's a big one.
That's the SG.
There's no one in the mid lane.
Oh.
Minions. Effective farming.
Those minions didn't see it coming, but H2K will. Alcohol comes in, so he's going to keep the fight going. Voice of Light comes out. Goodbye to Che. Reckless now on a rampage. He's going to leap forward. Looking for the Sweden, looking for the rinse and repeat.
Odoamne was in the top lane. He did not have his teleport. Fnatic saw the opportunity to punish the 4-man unit of H2K. They find a successful collapse, and now their eyes are on this mid-tier too.
Reckless just leaping forward, ready to auto-attack anyone who comes into his line of sight, but for now it's going to be the tower. Fnatic keeps their focus on. Even with a Baron buff in the hands of H2K, they are still making moves on the map.
I mean, that's the thing. H2K is still behind in terms of items here. They've just been defending very well. They've been constantly pressuring Fnatic off the Baron, and as you highlighted, Vader, is the fact that Fnatic never really got to push H2K all the way back towards their own base. Allowed this potential thing to happen, and obviously with the Feast, it worked for H2K, but they're still looking at this Elder Drake. Triple Infernal and an Elder Drake spawning. You cannot afford to give it over to Fnatic. There's still the Feast Smite combo for H2K. It's just a fight from before here where Fnatic knows there's a Cho'Gath top lane.
Yeah, and that was just a bit of a greedy move from Che. You can't really afford to go that deep to get vision. Putting some wards around the river is fine, as Reckless has got blood in his eyes.
So as is here on the flank, but is he the one that's going to get picked off? It doesn't look like they have enough damage on the side of H2K. Nuclear with no armor pen. In goes Caps. Common of Legend, both carries are fighting together. Jez is in the middle of everything. Shockwave pulls back, but it's only going to hit a tank. It does not matter. Eyes on Reckless. He is still up. Feast does not matter. All of Fnatic just doing whatever they want to this H2K lineup. That's going to be the triple.
And Fnatic find a huge team fight in H2K's jungle. Started off by Reckless, the TP flank in from Soaz. Without the Baron, it does not matter. They find the successful fight, and they're going to find the base of H2K H2K.
Yeah, H2K, they move down, they place all these deep wards around the Elder Drake. They're trying to set up for that fight, and then suddenly Soaz appears behind them with the teleport, and all in happens. Nuclear cannot get away, and H2K, they just lose that fight so quickly.
The surprise tree is always the deadliest as Fnatic look to end the game.
Fnatic pushing in. Dominant start to the game and a dominant close with one final team fight. H2K had a few shots. They fought back once or twice, but it was not enough here in game one. Fnatic moving forward. They're going to take the edge in this series with the game one win.
And they definitely slowed down once we started playing around the Baron. Fnatic tried to make sure that no steal could happen. Disengage from Baron whenever H2K showed up. You know, try and take the fight instead. But H2K were actually doing a fine job of just constantly, you know, stopping the Baron and not go for the team fight. They eventually even got the Baron with the Cho'Gath Feast, but every single fight in the entire early game was so heavily in favor of Fnatic that there was very little H2K could actually do in this game.
And we need to see a change from H2K. Get that bottom lane on a different matchup. Like, I thought the Sivir was fine to the Tristana. I think, like, in a matchup sense, it's fine, but...
Don't give Alistar when you play Sivir. You will always get engaged. You literally cannot avoid it. You stand there, you're like, I'm gonna spell shield this guy. Ah, it was his headbutt. I got knocked up anyway. I'm even doing a little jump here to signal I got knocked up.
He pantomimes everything, guys. He pantomimes. You don't see it on camera. But I think you're right.
They got so punished by it.
Regardless of the picks, they can't afford to die like that, no matter what happens. And I think the thing is from what we saw from H2K playing in the mid to late game, if they had not been at such a major deficit, this could have been a very, very close game. But Fnatic started building that lead and just kept building that lead over the course of the game.
The only part that I would slightly dispute about that is largely because of Caps' roaming. He was allowed to roam a lot to the top side, but he also had the ability to roam down to the bot as well.
He could have done that, yeah.
So I think that Caps was a big contributor to also the early success of Fnatic.
Definitely fair to say. Well, Fnatic got first blood against H2K. Let's head over to the analyst desk for the full breakdown.
Very interesting game one that we followed on here with the analyst desk, and my analyst was very outspoken about a lot of it. So let's dive straight in the early game. A fantastic start for Fnatic. We'll take a look at the replay in Gilius. You just wanted to point out the fact that this wasn't a jungler involved here, that this was straight up personal 2v2 kills.
Exactly. This just shows like my point. Like I said, Reckless will carry this series today, and he's showing up. They're going for the 2v2 play, and they kill them. And just after killing them the first time, they kill them again here. They go on the Braum. It was just a very, very impressive performance by Reckless and Jesus this game.
Yeah, and still possible liability in that bottom lane. Then on top of that, Caps with a very early roam. He loves that Aurelion Soul and gets another kill.
I think it's a classic, you know, like I think there's only 2 players that played the Aurelion Soul into the Orianna. I think Senkus is also one. The beauty of it is Orianna is very strong in the early game. Aurelion Soul can outpush him and just roam, and on top of that, be very strong in the 2v2 later on in the mid lane. So I think Aurelion Soul is a fine pickup against Orianna, and for those sacrifices in mid lane, it worked out fine to gank the Cho'Gath for it.
It was fantastic, a great setup, but this is where the tricky part comes in, because you are Fnatic, you get those pure 2v2 kills that roam up in the top lane, you get a lot of gold on your team, you have a great team comp, you already have 2 kills on your Tristana, so you actually expect this game to go much faster than it did, so why do you think it slowed down so much, Gilius?
Yeah, I don't really like the decision-making of Fnatic in the mid to late game. Their Baron dance is really not that good. They are not going deep enough into the jungle. They're not choking out the enemy vision-wise. And H2K always has breathing room in the mid game. They can always come back. They can always go for the 50-50 Nash because Fnatic is just not playing the macro clean.
No, because they'll get a win in a fight here and then go for Baron, but
yeah,
they don't even get it and they're up against a Cho. So for a team that was starting off so well, Yamato, they completely lost the plot a bit in the mid-game.
I think the main thing is that they are setting up the 1-3-1 to put Tristana to push out the side lane. The moment Sivir shows up there to clear the wave, they need to be grouping up as 4 in mid lane and then cut off the enemy jungle completely, but they never did this. They were just pushing the waves. H2K was catching, and they were always sitting in their own jungle, so they could contest, they could fight, when in reality, Fnatic should be pushing into their outer turrets.
And if this Alistar was Miffy, they had a free Nash here. Like, I don't know what Jesus was doing. He was hitting the Nash with auto attacks instead of just going out, combo away the Sejuani or just W him away, and then you have a free Nash.
Yeah.
but he was tunnel visioning on something else.
Yeah, we're going to see the actual steal now also, because the problem with this whole floundering about in the mid game was that then you get to a situation where you have a 50-50, but against a Cho, that's not really a 50-50, Yamato.
No, it's crazy. Thinking about it, that they are just doing Nashor as if they're in some position where they have to force it. But in reality, like, sure, if this was a game where Fiora was 6-0 and pushing bot lane, taking you in, okay, you do this play, but there's nothing like that going on.
I mean, they play like they have a hurry, you know, like
Yeah, they want to go home.
yeah, you can
Eat
just
some chicken or something,
like
man.
as Yamato already said, just play for the tier 2 towers first. Remove all the towers from the map and then get all the dragons, get a good vision setup around the Nash, and then just take a free Nash. But these teams are not patient enough.
Yeah, and the reason why I think we are being so hard on it, even though they end up winning the game, is because yesterday, H2K got absolutely stomped by the Unicorns of Love, who had lesser sense of macro, right, throughout the series. So it's a bit worrying if you see Fnatic struggling in the mid game. If you imagine them not having as big of a lead, it might become very difficult against H2K to close out the series.
I definitely agree. Like, so the problem for H2K was the RNG was in Fnatic's favor. They had an early lead bot lane, and then Infernal Drakes were coming over and over. They had triple Infernal, and they had Reckless on Tristana. So they had no real chance to come back in the late game.
I think the main thing is that everyone by now should accept that Reckless will win bottom. And I think this is a fair assessment. I think Fnatic won purely on mechanical skill. And the main thing is, for me, is from H2K's perspective, is that they're playing a Cho'Gath Maokai matchup top lane. Very inactive in the jungle. Mid lane, Aurelion Sol is going to be pushing. So the main thing for H2K, if they want to have any chance at all, is that they have to be able to compete from top side and be ahead in this race of getting ahead, because Brox is very good at playing around bottom, Reckless is getting advantages. Something needs to happen at top side.
Yeah, I agree. And I think they should stop letting Reckless get Tristana as well. Just remove the Kalista and Tristana from Reckless, put him on something normal that can't like absolutely 1v9 the game, and then H2K can come back maybe.
Well, that was also what we were looking at. We saw the early game, we're like, okay, it's over, you know, Tristana's got these kills, his best champ. Why would you give Reckless Tristana? The mid game came, and then Gilly said, it's going to happen. He has that Essence Reaver. It's going to happen. And we're going to take a look at the final fight, because Reckless is done. He just jumps in, he jumps forward, and he just wants to end this game.
Yeah. I mean, he just has triple Inferno right now, a lot of items, just jumping in. And we see a great TP flank from Soaz. He gets on Nuclear. And now they're just chasing them down. Nuclear is out of the fight right now. He's super low. And now, yeah, they're just cleaning up now. Reckless is doing a lot of damage here.
He is. He's stepping up and getting that also when they were so far ahead, but they slowed down. Gilly, as you said, if this was Giants Gaming with me, we would have finished that in 5 minutes.
Whatever team I'm on, the game time, whenever I have a lead, the game time is always 24 minutes, 25 minutes, because I know how to call the mid game. So, yeah, I hope they can step up their shot calling.
We'll see. So, Yamato, going into game 2 for H2K, it's not a man overboard. It doesn't feel like complete chaos or destruction, but what do you think they have to change for game 2 to win it?
I feel like something, Nara needs to be in the open. I think Odoano on Nara is something good. Also, if he can play in some counter matchups into Nara, that's also very good. I want an explosive matchup. Jankos is a lot better than Brox at setting up those top lane plays. I remember this one game specifically, we saw the Renekton Sejuani combo that just one-shot, I think it was the Elise of Broxa, and I want to see more of this. I want to see a top lane-centric player where Odamne is on a carry, not the Cho'Gath Maokai matchups, because that is where Soaz excels, and I want there to be fire in the top.
I want there to be fire. Well, Fnatic, they were looking to make a return to the international stage. We'll see if they can build on their lead when we return.
Nice to have as well. Puts Fnatic in a bit of a pickle if they want to go for. Never mind. Aurelion Sol time. Well, Exhaust is down. Nuclear running for his life. Reckless hungry for the kill. Is this going to be the first blood taken down? He's getting his hands on it again, and it's looking good. Moving for more. That's the second kill. Comment of legend. Both carries are fighting together. Just in the middle of everything. Shockwave pulls back, but it's only going to hit a tank. It does not matter. Eyes on Reckless. He is still up. Feast does not matter. All of Fnatic just doing whatever they want to this H2K lineup. That's going to be the triple. H2K had a few shots. They fought back once or twice, but it was not enough here in game 1. Fnatic moving forward. They're going to take the edge in this series with the game 1 win. Welcome back to the stage in Berlin where Fnatic and H2K are fighting for a chance to represent Europe at Worlds. Coming into game 2, things have to change for H2K, and the first change now is that they're on the blue side of the map.
But I'm going to start with a quick stat for you, Dracos. Did you know that no team has ever won the gauntlet by starting from the bottom and climbing all the way through the entire thing? No team in the European LCS history has been able to do it. H2K have the opportunity to do that today.
You only said Dracos, so...
I did, because
I feel left out here.
That's because you're not supposed to talk, Martin. You wait your
Sorry, I'm sorry.
So, getting back into this matchup.
Surprising. I feel like someone must have had the underdog story, but I guess we...
Hey, let's talk about pick and ban phase, because H2K being on blue side is actually super huge, because it means they don't have to ban Kalista. So they can now deny Tristana Xayah from Reckless without having to use all 3 bans on it. They can maybe even get Tristana or Xayah themselves for Nuclear and try and get a better 2v2 lane matchup down the bottom lane where you do not get completely dumpstered, which of course is not a good thing.
And it's hard for H2K because there's so many 2v2 matchups that they have suffered in.
I feel like Fnatic right now already setting up for, we're going to give you Tristana, we're going to answer with the Sivir, and then we're going to pick a favorable support matchup so that we'll do fine in terms of the 2 versus 2 by already banning away the Alistar. And H2K, they're just funneling on these top lane bans.
Fnatic have not banned the Kalista yet. If there is a team who would leave it open, it would be Fnatic to try and challenge Nuclear. See, do you want to play Kalista against Jessus and Reckless down the bottom lane and give like a Tristana or Xayah?
Wow.
And that feels like one of the biggest disrespect things you can do in pick ban. It's like, hey, take the Kalista. I don't care. I'm going to beat you anyway. That champion is so strong. I mean, we haven't gotten to see her played.
100% banned in Europe.
It's been crazy that we haven't seen her once, but Tristana is off the board.
This should mean the Kalista ban then for Fnatic and a Xayah first pick, probably for Nuclear to make sure Jessus doesn't play it. I think with Tristana gone, taking a gamble of trading Kalista for Tristana is maybe not too smart for Fnatic, and they seem to agree as well. So Xayah is what I'm expecting here, just because if you give it over to Reckless, you end up in that same situation where you can't win the 2v2 lane and it's bad.
And I'm curious, if we're not going to have quite as dominant on the bottom side from Fnatic, if they come into an even game, who are the members that really need to perform if they want to keep finding these wins against H2K?
I'm looking at Caps in the middle lane. He had a fantastic Aurelion Sol game in game 1. It's not been banned away like we saw in the G2 semi-final series in spring, but he did have a lot of side lanes to allow him to set up for success, and we will see the Civic coming out from the side of Reckless.
Most likely the Sejuani again for Jankos then, and then we gotta see if they want to go for support pick here, or if they want to take their mid laner. Cassiopeia is open. Febreman can lock it in.
That's a very good point. I feel like they should just insta-lock that bad boy.
Otherwise, Fnatic can take it for Capsia and then ban away 2 champions that Febreman would like to play against the Cassiopeia.
The only thing I was thinking of is that they might let it through. They might give them the Cassio and then pick the Syndra themselves and then just look to try and camp mid with the Gragas and Syndra combo.
Interesting. Trundle going to be locked in here. Was banned out in the previous game in the second ban phase. H2K putting a lot of priority on that pick.
Gonna be able to flex it. I think one of the problems H2K had in the last draft was they didn't have an answer in their minds to Cho'Gath, so they felt forced to take it in the first phase here in the second phase of the pick and ban phase, meaning Orana did not get a counter pick, and that was because Gnar and Trundle were both banned, which seems to be the 2 answers from Orana's side. By taking this flex pick Trundle, you do set yourself up for that situation where you can actually just put the Trundle top in case a Cho'Gath does show up from Soaz.
And I think they're a little hesitant to pick something like a Renekton, because usually you want to try and get a lot of advantages in that lane, and when you're picking a Sejuani, it becomes a little difficult to try and snowball, along with playing against something like an Aurelion Sol that's going to try and roam it to the top side as well.
And Morgana is locked in with this Sivir. This makes me very, very happy, because I think that Black Shield just helps Sivir so much in the laning phase to avoid these all-in engages that can happen, like the ones we saw in the last game. Fnatic also now needs to figure out if they want to take that Cassiopeia blind. Banning away the Lucian does not necessarily do too much against Febreman. I think there's still so many good mid lane picks like Orianna as well.
Just to add on to the Morgana as well, it naturally does quite well into the Trundle too, largely because what Trundle's really good at with the Pillar is locking down low mobility AD carries that don't have escapes, but the Black Shield stops the slow, so it allows you to escape when you get caught off guard by that obnoxious obstruction.
Now we look at the bans coming out. LeBlanc, Lucian, mid lane focus once again. Last time Fnatic threw a curveball. This time H2K know it's in their back pocket. Corki now banned as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking blind pick Orianna here, especially with the Lucian ban. And then save last pick for Source in the top lane so you know where this Trundle is going. On the side of H2K, they could also just take the Aurelion Soul again, but I think the Orianna is a safer blind pick. Cassiopeia is still also available, and it was such a huge pick yesterday.
I feel like Cassio would be good here. Perhaps they're a little bit worried with the amount of hard crowd control that they have, because what we saw yesterday was Miasma stacked with hard CC is really effective. So maybe they're just looking for a little bit more lane presence in the middle lane.
We have to remember the one player who was not successful on Cassiopeia during the playoffs was actually Caps, because Fnatic do not play around that mid lane very often. And he very clearly sends a message here that he values other mid laners above it. Cassiopeia should just come in here for H2K side against the Syndra. We've seen that matchup time and time again, and Fibbervent did fine in the laning phase when he played it against Exile.
Very well, in fact. Champion at 100% win rate once again yesterday's series. Cap's gonna hope he can do better on the Syndra this time around. Has been an incredibly good champion for Caps. We do have to acknowledge that, but Cassio looked to be the stronger champion overall in yesterday's series.
It looks like they're just going to go for a safe sort of top laner in the form of a Maokai. Fnatic, they have a few options. They could go for the Cho'Gath, does fine into the Maokai, or they could go for something a little more aggressive in the Renekton if they wanted to.
Would they play Rumble for Soas?
They could do, they could do.
There's a lot of magic damage.
Yeah, I'd also be concerned with the engage coming out from Fnatic. You do have the Gragas, but there's no really good follow-up CC to facilitate that. So I think I'd prefer something like a Cho, just to add that extra bit of utility. You've got plenty of damage with the Sivir and Syndra, and then you have a Morgana jumping in ulti too. Like, I think there's enough damage there.
The safer option, Soas seems to agree as well, locking in that Cho'Gath for himself, and you got the classic comp with the 2 tanks in the front and 2 carries right behind in Sivir Syndra from Fnatic's side. But I think the Maokai pick here is very good for Odomne, and I think H2K's draft overall is very, very solid. Especially when you look at the top side of the map with Maokai, Sejuani, and Cassiopeia. As long as they do not fall behind in the early game, we know how deadly they are in team fights.
And I really want to see what Odomne can do here, because he was crushed in the early laning phase as the Cho'Gath into the Maokai matchup. Now that was courtesy of the Aurelion Soul coming to his lane, but I'm hoping now, without the crazy roaming mid laners, that we can see a stronger performance from Odomne, as he was so often the key to H2K's success yesterday.
As much as I'd like to see that on a Maokai, it's harder to be that same level of playmaker as opposed to something like a Jarvan would be. But you're right. What we'd very much like to see from him is not falling behind so much. And to be fair to him, it was difficult against an Aurelion Sol, against that kind of pressure. He did end up struggling. But now I think that there will be a lot of focus in the middle lane. I really want to see Broxah helping Caps out with the Syndra Gragas combo. You have so much great setup with the Syndra, with the easy land of the stun, especially onto a Cassio who can't even build boots in the early game. It's a great lane to really just put a lot of early focus into.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be briefly delayed going into game. No major issues here, just a couple extra minutes. So in the meantime, we have a chance to talk about the composition, to talk more about what we're looking to see from the teams. And we talked about how Caps doesn't always get a lot of attention in the mid lane. And I want to know if that's going to change, because he has the Syndra now. I want to see what he can do in this game, because it was Aurelion Sol all on his own last game that built a lot of those leads.
The one champion where Fnatic liked to play around mid lane was in fact with Syndra, because it's so easy to set up ganks. And as you highlighted before, you know, trying to shut down a Cassiopeia, like, typically people look at it and say, okay, when she has Catalyst and a bit of magic resistance, well, there you go. Like, Gragas, Syndra, you might even get 1v2'd if you miss one of your engages, and then suddenly, that's a tough one.
A Perks did.
Kind of like we've seen before. So if you can actually, around level 6, where the burst is so impactful, and there's such a squishy champion in Cassiopeia, that's where you really want to shine. But it's up to Broxah to join Caps in the mid lane. They do not need to help bot lane. It's a double range matchup versus a Trundle. That should be fine for Fnatic to just go even in that lane, potentially even get push priority. Mid lane should be the focus for this Gragas.
For context on the issue, won't be much of a further delay. Had to remake the lobby for some back-end features to work. Those will be up and functioning. We'll get all the goodies that you love so much, but it does put us back a minute. Now, we bring up the bottom lane. Game 1, the bottom lane was kind of this massive source of advantage. Nuclear
Yeah, it was
got
pretty big.
crushed.
Yeah.
Nuclear got crushed, and now I feel like this game is going to show us something different from Fnatic because it has to. Because I want to say no way that a Morgana Sivir are going to find any kind of crazy 2v2 kills.
It's difficult to say. It is very difficult because if the Trundle just suddenly runs up to the Sivir and is just blindly auto-hitting, and then the Sivir hits back, and then all of a sudden as he tries to escape and Morgana binding lands, yeah, he dies. But you have to play really badly in order to give away your life. I think the bottom lane will be much more standard. I'm expecting it to be a safe, just trading back and forth. Rekkles and Jezz should, in theory, have the push. But the thing you've always got to remember about Xayah is normally that you take a point in your Q first, then you go E and then W. And once you've got all 3 abilities, it's super easy to stack the passive feathers, and you just throw them through the minion wave. You max your E, and once you pull the feathers back, you actually just clear out the wave extremely quickly. So both AD carries will have a fair amount of wave clear. It's very much dependent on whether or not the Morgana, Jezz, decides to put any points in his W, which typically you don't normally do.
He did it once.
He did once.
It was horrible. It was. I cried when I went to bed that night.
The base damage on that ability, it became god awful.
No, it was just terrible. He luckily didn't do it in the 3rd place game, so we have accepted him as.
So if you're wondering why they were so successful, it's actually not taking a point in Tormented Soil. 100% the reason Fnatic were able to.
Don't go Thunderlords either. You don't need it. It's all about just getting that Ardent Sensor for your AD carry. Click Black Shield. You've done your job. You can be very proud of yourself suddenly.
Ardent Sensor, one of those items that I like to see right now because Sivir, we talk about how many items she needs to be successful, but with Ardent Sensor in the meta, I feel like she can go for the Infinity Edge, along with the Essence Reaver, one attack speed item, and then still be that crazy threat.
I mean, it's also important to highlight the fact that she gets attack speed when she uses her W automatically from her ulti. She also has an auto reset on that, so you actually don't need to stack that much attack speed to still fire fairly quickly and get a lot of big hits through the entire team. Another thing that we should mention is the fact that up in the top lane, Maokai Cho'Gath, not too exciting. This camera angle, on the other hand, that's a spicy one.
This is compared to Maokai Cho'Gath, guys. This is it. This is living life.
Oh, we can't show those important notes right there, Betty.
The secret.
You need to stop doodling prior to a cast. Look, I appreciate your Captain Crunch drawing more than anyone else, but the world does not need to see it.
So moving back towards the game.
Yeah, I was about to say, you know, Jankos on Sejuani, it's very hard to help his mid laner on this pick in the early game, but top lane you can go for kills. I think it might just be one of those games where Jankos doesn't need to do too much early, and really it's just on Broxah to be proactive.
And Broxah has been the source of a lot of criticism recently. We know it's been weighing very heavily on him. Some of it was justified, but I feel like he has been taking it especially hard, and I want to see if he can keep the performance we saw in the 3rd place game, showed some very solid Gragas performances, has been his go-to pick, as the Sejuani has been for Jankos. Both those guys getting their comfort picks, the picks that they've been playing the most, and now really going to have a chance to battle it out here to see who can get their laners ahead.
The thing to note, I guess, is that both team compositions, very much about team fighting. It's pretty much the meta right now. The only exception really is Longju over from the LCK, where they funnel a lot into side lanes, but here, it's very much going to be about scaling. We're going to have team fighting. If a team gets an early lead, it's going to be very similar to what we saw in Game 1, where they control a lot of the advantages because they're in a better position to fight sooner in the game, which means that they're actually going to be able to win out on the 5v5. But the key players that you really need to watch out for are number 1, Febiven on the Cassiopeia. Scales extremely well, went 5-0 yesterday. Does extremely well against the front line. And then the Sivir, the team fight menace. Just like we saw in the 3rd place match, Rekkles nearly brought the game back using that Sivir. Get to the super late game, you have a lot of damage, especially in big team fights, and those two in the big fights are going to be the key factors.
And it's interesting in this meta too, with so many limited damage threats, how much pressure can go onto the AD carry and mid laner respectively. And last time we saw Rekkles on this pick, it was of course fighting from a massive deficit. But the key to H2K finding that lead was the Renekton on the top side of the map, combined with that Sejuani early on. I don't feel like you get the same kind of power coming out of the Maokai. You don't really have that.
Pretty crazy Maokai, at least. You gotta be damn good in the laning phase to do that. And
full AP Lichbane Maokai.
It will, of course, be very focused on just pure farming on top side. Again, I still think you can actually shut down a Cho'Gath with Sejuani Maokai together. It's a good combination for a lot of chains he's seeing. But it relies on the mid laner being even, so that you don't just get constantly counter ganked by a Syndra roaming and by a Gragas going to top side. And again, that's where you look at that top lane. for a potential snowball. If you're H2K, you look at mid lane for Fnatic, as we highlighted before. We just need to see both junglers actually looking for ganks, if they're just going to farm and place vision.
And I really just want to add a little bit onto your point, because you rightly said is about the Sejuani Maokai. What a lot of people don't respect is the surprising amount of burst that comes out from a Sejuani in the early game. You get that 4-hit passive, you proc the freeze, I think it's called, and then you just chunk them out. You have a lot of CC, you have a lot of early game damage. It's the great thing about these tanks in the early game that a lot of people don't appreciate. So it's definitely a place in which you can invest. For any potential Sejuani aspiring pros at home.
And of course, we are potentially 30 seconds out from the game. Not potentially, we are 30 seconds out. Once again, not a major issue. Just had to remake the lobby.
I kind of panicked.
Picks and bans 100% completed. Teams are now loading onto the Rift. And we will be getting into game 2 in just a moment. In the meantime, folks, you saw the graphic already, but this is your chance, you know? You got a breath, you got 30 seconds. Head over to Twitter, vote. Let us know who you think is going to win. A lot of people think Fnatic right now. Maybe you H2K fans want to change that. It's your chance. This is your shot. Because right now, Fnatic have the edge. And I don't think anybody wants to watch a 3-0 today. Hoping for the full 5 games.
The Fnatic fans probably want to watch a 3-0.
They want the Fnatic win. They might still want 5 games, though.
And let's remember, guys, winner of this best of 5 goes to Worlds. They will be competing in the World play-in stage against a lot of other talented teams, and I'm sure that both teams want to represent our region over in China.
Well, the fans are ready, so it is time. Ladies and gentlemen, game 2 once again. Vetti has set it, 3rd seed from Europe is on the line. Right now it is Fnatic in the lead. Right now it is Fnatic with the edge, but H2K have the potential to fire back. We've answered a lot of questions already. We had a lot of discussion before the game started, but the thing from last game was still the bottom lane, and we said already, it feels like it might be safer for H2K this time around.
Well, grabbing the Xayah at least and not facing, you know, the Tristana-Alistar combo makes it a bit easier for Nuclear. Overall, though, we saw H2K yesterday get completely stomped in the first game against the Unicorns a lot. We thought, okay, they're done, you know, this is it, they're broken, they're never going to bounce back. That was it, you know. They actually bounced back really well in the second game and beat Unicorns of Love, and they need to do the same in this one here against Fnatic. They have that Cassiopeia that was so successful last time, and as long as Febiven can stay alive in the early game, then he will be a huge carry.
Febiven, of course, finding some good opportunities in game 1, but still not enough.
He's also running the cleanse. I like the respect. Not only due to the potential pressure coming out from Caps and Brox in the early game, but also just the Morgana binding. There's so much chain CC from Fnatic where you have stun into binding, into knockup, silence, another knockup. Like, just running that cleanse to avoid the initial CC is great for a Cassio before she gets those levels and before she gets the movement speed from the passive.
Of course, Caps a little bit more locked into the laning phase this time around. Will be a lot more about Caps versus Febiven as opposed to Caps versus the rest of the map. You can see here how active he was in the early game, getting 2 kills for his team before 15 minutes.
Unfortunately, his lane did suffer a little bit by roaming around the map so much, and that was due to Febiven playing extremely well. He did exert a lot of pressure on the Orianna, and he was the player that we were keeping our eyes on in game 1 to potentially be the carry, to potentially turn the game back in the favor of H2K. But it was thanks to Caps making those good roams, snowballing topside, thanks to the pressure that they got at the bottom, that Fnatic were able to get such a great early lead.
So, mid lane though, very explosive in the start. Febiven getting a lot of damage onto Caps. Early level 2 for him to get a bit more poke, and then when Caps matches the level, well, Febiven says, I don't care, I'm just gonna keep trading.
Just keep your eyes on the mana pool of Febiven too, because that's one of the risks that you run by just going so hard in the early game that you just very quickly burn out of mana. You do have the Corrupting Potion there to stock back up, but now we see a bit of investment in the top side.
Yeah, this was that potential gank we mentioned with the Maokai CC, follow up by the CC from a Sejuani to keep the Cho'Gath in place. It's happening.
Twisted advance to flash out immediately from Soaz, but that's going to be the 4 stack. Freeze up as the knockup comes through. No follow-up, though. Can't afford to dive the tower.
Now there's the freeze up that you're talking about, Dracos. A lot of early burst damage coming out from the Sejuani and Maokai. They will force the flash from Soaz, so a nice bit of pressure being exerted from H2K already. And Jankos is even able to get a bit of a steal onto the Prox.
And now they have to just return gank within the next 5 minutes here with this flash being on cooldown from Soaz. Potentially a little bit less than the 5 minutes, depending on his masteries. Broxa will have to just back away here. Bot lane as well, the double range from Fnatic have pushed in this lane here, but we see some good return fire from Nuclear.
And the key thing about this 2 versus 2 is that when H2K commit, Morgana doesn't really do much, especially if she misses the binding. It is a very long cooldown in the early levels, so the moment it is gone, H2K can really look to play as forward and look to trade as often as they would like.
Extending the trade, using the low cooldown of that chomp to punish. And Trundle is still scary. If he gets into melee range, he is a massive threat in the early game, even without any items. For now, the pressure on the top side, going in favor of Fnatic, but Broxa is nearby. He's ready. He smells Yanko's coming. He wants to make a play.
Yeah, he needs to protect his top laner because Soaz knew the lane was pushing towards Odo Amne, but Caps with a very early roam to the bottom lane.
Exhaust has been burned. Caps on the way in. It may not be an Aurelion Soul, but the Syndra is here. That's the double stun, but the binding goes wide. So much invested, but not a lot gained.
Return gank now in the top lane from Yankos. No flash, remember.
Broxa sees this coming. Back ping coming out. Soaz they need to burn through Soaz immediately. Stun is going to go in. That's the permafrost. One more auto moving forward, and first blood for H2K.
A lot of things just went wrong there for Fnatic. Yankos will even force Broxa back here, but in the bottom lane, Jesus and Caps, they gotta time that CC. You know, if Caps is confident he's gonna hit the stun, then Jesus needs to hold the binding until he sees the stun land, then fire it to try and maybe get a kill. Top lane as well, Broxa stepped away after protecting Soaz during the push, and then Soaz had to stay, or felt like he needed to stay in the lane at least, and then suddenly he finds himself super overextended, and that top lane focus with the double CC working for H2K.
And Maokai, a pick we did not see in Europe for so long, now coming to prominence. It's not super powerful in terms of individual 1v1, but it has so much setup when you want to gank that top lane.
And Odo, one of the players that we wanted to keep our eyes on, could he have a good performance up against Fnatic? He played extremely well on the Jarvan yesterday and the Nart as well against the Unicorns of Love. And getting him off to a good start can really set him up for success. Now we see Che roaming around the map a little bit, trying to set up a play in mid.
Thor comes in. Fevlin going to take the opportunity to trade back and forth. Fantastic sidestep.
Fevlin just going to get a bit of deep harassment down. Now there's actually a 2-man roam into the enemy jungle as well.
Yeah, a lot of things right now are going so well for H2K because by Broxa being topside and not even actually able to save Soaz from dying to a return gank, it also means that in the mid lane, the Cassiopeia is not touched. No one is roaming in to deal with Fevlin, so he's just winning the trades 1v1. Even Che coming in to make it harder for Caps by setting up a nice little advantage with Fevlin with some quick hits. And then suddenly, this Cassiopeia is just getting further and further ahead in terms of CS. You need Broxa to play around the Syndra lane, but he felt forced to go top to try and protect Soaz. And then they didn't actually time the push with the Cho'Gath and the Gragas, so that when Broxa left, Soaz was still in lane overextended and just died anyway.
It's an awkward spot to be. Last game when there was the massive CS deficit in the mid lane for Caps, he made up for it elsewhere. This time the play goes south, and suddenly Fnatic aren't quite as in control as they were in game 1.
And you've got to just look at the mentality shift of H2K. They realized that, okay, we had a bad game 1. We fell apart in the early game, but around that Baron, they did play well. They held the defense for a very long time against a very strong Fnatic. Now coming into game 2, they understood their early game plan, and they're executing it extremely well. Now the onus is on Fnatic to try and get something back in terms of the early game. They still have a lot of power in this middle lane with the level 6 Syndra and the level 5 Broxa. He's going for a bit of an invade. Now this could be risky, given that he doesn't really have that much pressure on the bottom side.
Well, Fevlin is moving to top side, so they know that Caps can join in case a fight happens.
And now it's just a battle for the buff. Either jungler with a level advantage, but Broxa taking a lot of poke back. Smite goes in, Broxa gonna get it. Yanko's a little early there. Good patience comes in from Broxa, small XP advantage to him.
But by Fevlin going to top side, it actually forced Soaz to walk away from tower. Give up a little bit of CS at the same time. Fevlin once again.
Just relentless in how much pressure he's putting down onto Caps. Caps not coming out on top in these trades.
And the big thing about this matchup too is every time Fevlin lands the Q, he gets the movement speed boost. Fevlin's expecting the stun from Caps, so as long as he sidesteps it every time, he's going to just keep sticking onto Caps and forcing him out of this lane. Love the way Fevlin is playing this. You have to play hyper aggro in order to win out on this matchup past the level 6 once Caps is a little bit more wave clear. But he also has information on where Broxa is, and that's also extremely important in asserting your dominance.
A little awkward there as he misses a couple CS, but he'll be able to focus back up and clean up the last few. And across the map, Fnatic not with quite as big of a lead as they once had. Now, as we come into the mid game, as level 6s, well, still early game, as we come towards the level 6 point, I think we have to be ready for a little bit more playmaking. Gragas now at the level 6, Yanko's coming in as well.
But so far, it's perfect for H2K. Febiven is winning his lane. Rodam is winning his lane. They're not getting camped. They're not dying in the early game. They're actually just going to move towards this mid-game stage where they can teamfight so effectively. Bot lane as well. Nuclear might be down a little bit against Reckless, but he hasn't died yet. That's the key part.
The impressive thing to note about that graphic just there was the extremely low jungle proximity that Reckless had in game 1, yet he was still able to get such impressive numbers. And that just comes back to the individual talent that we often talk about for Fnatic. They have really strong members, and when they're allowed to perform to their maximum level, you can see the outcomes.
And by allowed, we mean when those champions are not banned away, when they are given those favorable lane matchups. But the lane matchups aren't quite as favorable this time around.
Oh, and H2K are trying to respond with their own individual superstars, and especially Febiven and also Rodam up in that top lane, winning their sides. And H2K now using Jankos, moving down to bot lane, force Reckless and Jess back. And I feel bad for Broxah that he had to go top lane and babysit this Cho'Gath, and then they didn't actually push out the wave properly. And again, he still saw him die, because this was supposed to be a good early game for this Gragas, where he actually could go towards the mid lane and apply pressure, but instead it's been a game where Broxah's not been able to do anything at all.
Cass with a quick flash out, knows that if that trade extends, he will go down. Forced to burn it early, sees Che and Yanko's coming as well. And really so much more pressure. Fnatic got to play pretty much pressure-free the entirety of game 1, but now that H2K come in on even footing, they're doing much better.
The difference between having a bot lane go 2-0 within the first 5 minutes versus going even. And you have to give a lot of credit to Jankos as well. His early pressure has been very effective so far in this early game, but now the game is slowing down, and both teams, or especially for H2K's side, they're more than happy to just continue this farm and continue this lane.
I mean, Febiven, he loves his life. He's even laughing on the player camps at the moment. He's at that perfect Cassiopeia start where he's almost getting all the CS he can possibly imagine, and then he's also sitting now with that Negatron cloak. He has the Catalyst, so he's actually very good against the Gragas and the Syndrome combo, because they're both dealing magic damage to him. He's gonna get Abyssal Mask, and then suddenly that potential 1v2 can actually happen.
And we look at the coming team fights, it's all going to be on Reckless to take out this Cassio, because I see 4 sources of magic damage. Yeah, Cho'Gath a little bit of true damage there. Definitely have to be scared later in the game, but in the mid game, definitely be strong for the Cassio. For now, though, Fnatic pushing forward. TP going to be used and traded. They look to push in on the bottom side. All 5 members strong. Maokai ulti comes out. Maybe just looking for the disengage here as the wave is cleared.
Power of the Black Shield there, demonstrating its effectiveness against the Maokai. Just a bit of a party in the bottom lane. They will greet each party, and it seems they will back away.
Interesting that Fnatic didn't actually go for the kill against Nuclear and Che before all of H2K reacted in time. They were 4v2 for a moment. Maybe Caps' ulti was just on cooldown still. It actually just is ready now, so they made the call to just step away and focus tower, but investing TPs as well. Rodam is still on the bottom side to try and now return some damage to that bot lane tower.
Soaz has already returned to the top side. Not a great spot for them to be. Luckily, Reckless has enough wave clear to take this down.
So I think what Fnatic tried to do is just be preemptive on the play, because they realized that they're getting pushed in bot. Febiven has pressure on mids, and H2K are likely going to make that same play bot. So if they make it first and they force the TP out from Odo, then it slows H2K down from trying to take that first tower in the bottom lane.
Definitely a possibility, but now eyes on Caps. Febiven definitely far ahead. Flash forward on the Miasma. Chain CC, but the cleanse comes out. Petrifying Gaze not quite in range. Nice scatter of the week comes in from Caps to save his own life. H2K commit a lot to the mid lane, but not going to get a whole lot in return.
Good thing that Broxah was there as well, because if he wasn't, Febiven would not have been afraid to dive that tower. But they do what they wanted. They force Caps back. They don't get the kill, but they should be able to get this tower.
So as is here, Rupture can be used to clear the wave and will be. For a bit more, Odo Womnan to the tower takes a lot of damage back. Waiting for Jesus off to the side.
Morgana gang! Did nothing.
That's a good binding, man.
Scary ganks.
It's really scary at like level 2, but when there's so many tanks, man, it's underwhelming.
It's good use of the push though from H2K to get some damage on mid tower. Force summoners from Caps as well. Source even taking some damage now.
Subjugate even used by Che, making much less of a tank in that exchange, but you can see all MR Coming in from Soaz, no hesitation there, just does not want to get ripped through by that Sejuani.
So we need to see if Fnatic can actually go back down to this bottom lane and secure that tower. They did so much work beforehand, even invested that TP. Cap's been able to push out mid and then go bot lane a few times already in this game, but he will need Broxa around him to help pushing it. Potential gank happening as well.
That takes a lot of damage. Broxa is on the way in. Flash is up, but doesn't want to risk trying to go for the flash body slam.
But it does mean they can move now. That's the key thing. They push in the wave and they're kind of hovering around bottom side.
Jesus takes so much damage. Fnatic is now on their way to the bottom side. Nuclear and Che under pressure, but such a different...
Look at the mid, look at the mid. All right, let's not look at the mid. Let's not. Sorry, I just saw both jungle and mid grouping up. Jankos was like, oh, I want to fight. Especially with Caps and Brox's ulti unavailable. Could have been a good setup, but our observers are like, oh no.
They know best.
No, they do know best.
They know best, Vedis. You gotta trust. Okay. Woo. I thought for a second the blue buff was going to make it back to the camp, and Caps gonna look like a fool, but well played, getting the double little wolves as well.
Most confusing day of the Wolves' life. Why are you here?
Thank you, Vedius. What is this wolf thinking now that he's all alone and being attacked relentlessly?
Probably just having a pretty sad day.
Happens pretty often.
You also got to look at the other wolf camp because Fnatic have gotten a lot of deep vision down on the top side of the map. They're very aware of Odo, or they want to allow Soaz rather to be able to continue this push up on the top side. Caps and Broxa have been working a little bit more together in the last few minutes. They've been able to put a lot of pressure as they try to make their way bot to relieve some of the constant push that Nuclear and Che have had in this early game.
Now, a bit more relief coming in for Fevin in the mid lane. Sadly for Caps, though, still no major item completed. Went for the early Sork shoes, has the Lost Chapter, pretty comfortable in the lane. It's going to be difficult for him to take on Febiven in the 1v1.
And now it's again Febiven pushing first, meaning it's him moving to the bottom lane. So it's H2K who secures the first tower as well. They're using that mid lane pressure really well in the game here, and the all-in from Fnatic earlier did not result in a kill. Once again though, because we have these scaling tank comms, we don't have that much action early on, and it's how it's technically supposed to be, even though there are sometimes
you want
like
action! Jankos is going to look to give it to you, but a flash out from Caps, it's just going to be the summoner spell. Giving up. You know, my asthma laid down means Caps just makes it to freedom.
But now they're setting up to take this mid-tier 1. The flash is unavailable once again for Caps. Che really good at punishing these low mobility mid lane mages, especially when their flash is unavailable. They're actually going to make their way back to the bottom lane. They started moving up mid, but they realized that there's a big push coming out from Fnatic, and they don't want to lose that tower just yet.
Che and Nuclear still comfortable coming down. Still that slow laning phase you talked about. Tanks still scaling up. Cho'Gath, though, being given this free time to scale. Maybe not the best for H2K. Of course, they're still doing fine. But Maokai not going to have quite the same amount of damage as we move later into the game.
Yeah, it's tanks scaling, and then it's some of the openings where you could have maybe snowballed the lane not really being used, especially by Fnatic around mid. So this Cassiopeia is super strong at the moment. You can't really just shut her down effectively. She will go into the late game now and be a massive threat in fights. Instead, it's more about the bottom lane and see if they can get this bot lane tower down. There's also an Ocean Drake, which is super valuable in the early game. None of the teams put any priority on it. Jankos once again is around mid to just constantly force Fnatic to invest more members to try and defend here, because this tower is fairly low as well, and we gotta keep in mind that H2K already sitting with 2,000 gold lead. They secure a mid lane tier 1 tower with this winning Cassiopeia lane. Fnatic is running really far behind.
Luckily, Syndra does manage to complete the Morellonomicon, comes back to the mid lane, can't clear out the waves, but the tower is slowly but surely getting chipped down. Teams haven't been able to break through too many towers quite yet. Right now is H2K, about a 2K gold lead in their favor. Rift Herald, maybe the next objective worth focusing, but also a dragon.
Yeah, you set it up perfectly, Dracos. H2K, what they now want to do is push up mid. You can see that they've taken an extra wave in the bottom lane. Now I'd love to see them just make their way down towards the dragon. But Jankos, he has other plans in mind. He wants to get deep vision in the top side with the push that Febiven has.
Che and Nuclear grouping. During the stadium, you can hear H2K.
Reckless is bottom lane, so H2K can fight this.
Caps is now in trouble. Black Shield goes into CC. Not going to be blocked enough. Damage more than enough to take down Caps in that exchange.
Really good pillar there from Che. No flash available on Caps. It was just like we were talking about earlier on. the ability of Trundle to punish these low mobility mid lane mages, and now they can transition up towards the Rift Herald. They don't have focus on Drake. It's not going to be another 4 Drake game like it was in game 1. H2K, they're all about taking down those towers.
It's a slow, steady game from H2K, but they have been in complete control. No one even on the bottom side, freeing up the rest of the map. They've been doing so well in the individual matchup.
And it all comes back to the early game from Jankos investing ganks into top. Just like you were saying, Deficio, the fact that Bronxer felt like he had to go and babysit Soaz meant that he couldn't really get that same level of early pressure in the middle lane.
Have to see as we look back at this replay.
There's really not a whole lot you can do when your AD carry is sitting bot and you have no flash yourself. Good setup from Che and the rest of H2K to secure this tower. Slowly getting a bigger and bigger lead with this very strong teamfight combo. It will be the same kind of game as we saw with Fnatic, where now they're going to secure the outer turrets on H2K's side. They will then start playing around the Baron. Kind of force Fnatic to play defense all the time. And if H2K do not make a major mistake, they should be able to just keep grinding and getting a bigger advantage. To start taking away jungle camps, to start looking for these picks, doing the little rotations between lanes because you have full vision. I like this move here from Fnatic though, to try and get something back on the top side.
On the hunt burn, but just going to bully Ottawamne out. He does have the ultimate if he wants to try to zone off the tower, but he knows it will not be enough. Sivir and Cho'Gath, more than enough of a duo to focus it down, but now Rift Herald just going to get summoned on the bottom side. They're looking to fire back with a tower of their own, but no individual member is committing to this push. They know Fnatic is on the top side.
And they know Fnatic have a Cho'Gath, so they could actually rush a very early Baron. That's why all of H2K are reacting, saying, we gotta go up there. It's not to defend the tower or to defend the blue buff. It's literally because a Baron rush with Cho'Gath can always happen.
Well, it looks like Rift Herald is still gonna get this down. Will drop it, and of course getting the credit for summoning the Herald in the first place. That's yet another advantage for H2K. Now 3K gold lead in their favor. Setting up around that Baron, as mentioned. Of course, it is Fnatic with the Cho'Gath this time. Fnatic on the red side as well. So they're hoping to emulate H2K in the previous game.
I've got to keep track of this itemization too, because Febiven was one of the players that we wanted to keep track of throughout this game. Now he's completed the Morellonomicon. 21 minutes into the game, this castle is scaling very nicely, and Syndra is really yet to have any kind of early game impact. And that doesn't mean that Caps is going to fall behind. You still have a lot of damage on this mid lane champion, but it's so much harder to execute in these team fights because there's such a solid front line for the H2K carries to play behind.
It's difficult as H2K just continue to take out her towers for free. Fnatic looking to trade back what they can. Good news just continues to come in for H2K as Ottawamne can hold his own in the lane matchup.
Keep your eye on Nuclear. He's now playing the role of Reckless as this side lane split pushing AD carry. He has a minion wave on this tier 2, and it's Fnatic that are forced to respond to the pressure.
Now moving up. Let's see what they can do. Can they get the collapse? Che is here as well. Reckless all on his lonesome for now, but Broxa and Jesus are there for backup. Battle of wave pressure. Both teams trying to split each other up. Fnatic hoping they can find the group fight, hoping they can stop H2K from moving across the map.
They hope H2K just mess up a Baron so badly that Fnatic can actually steal it away with the Gragas and the Cho'Gath. Because right now they push down in every single lane. They won't win the following teamfight either if H2K just get the proper engage with the Sejuani and the Maokai. Febiven is insanely strong. He won't get one-shot by a Syndra combo. Xayah is the same. If you see the Syndra fully go towards you, you can use your ulti to dodge a lot of the damage, and suddenly Caps find themselves in a situation where it's hard to actually utilize your burst. Because you don't really want to use it on Maokai or Sejuani if you can avoid it.
And this always feels bad, is when we see these Syndras fall behind, they can no longer blow up that single member with the ultimate.
And this game is just the perfect example of why most pro teams value the Cassiopeia above the Syndra, because if you do not play around the Syndra lane in this matchup, Syndra just becomes much weaker in the mid to late game compared to the Cassio. So in this case, H2K, like, we are happy taking this matchup and just make sure Febiven doesn't die in the early game, and then we know we can win late game fights with a stronger mid laner.
Oh, and Fnatic setting up the Death Rush, hoping to bait Ottawamne in, but a good bit of vision there. Gonna stop the play in its tracks. However, now, multiple members of H2K, they are clearing out the vision. Fnatic will see the wards drop even if they don't have vision of the members in the pit.
And remember, Fnatic were in this position in game 1. And what they did was they just kept forcing the Baron to try and bait H2K into fights. And H2K were never really falling for the ploy. They never hard committed. They were always just threatening the Baron, trying to steal it away, and then disengaging. And the reason why H2K were allowed to do that is because they had control over their half of the jungle, which, as you can see, H2K are right now denying from Fnatic.
They're trying to cut Reckless off from the tier 2 tower as well, knowing that if they send enough members up, they're going to get it, and that is going to be the case. Slow and steady, H2K not taking the same maneuver around Baron Pit, much more comfortable just to take down the tier 2s, but with tier 2 starting to fall, they are running out of options. Eventually it will come down to baiting this Baron, to executing, to risking the potential steal from Cho'Gath.
But they can push so much deeper now because they kill all these towers. They can get full control in the jungle of Fnatic and stop Source from ever getting close to actually stealing this Baron. Just turn and fight when you see him move in the jungle here near the Baron itself. They have plenty of engage with the Maokai Sejuani and even a Trundle Pillar. Very good at just killing whatever is right in front of them with Cassiopeia's Xayah. And so many tools to stop people from escaping. Miasma as well is fantastic against these tanks who wants to get out of the fight if they're about to die. Nope, you're not going anywhere if everyone can actually get the W down.
And I think a good play from H2K right now could be for them to just push out these waves and then just either start the Baron to try and force the TP out from Soaz, so that that's one less thing that they have to play around. And if they don't have to use their own TP, if they don't try and actually force a fight but just bait Fnatic in, then it's just the advantage that they have to make this Baron play that much easier for H2K to set up for.
Well, there's a chance we see Maokai, once the bot lane is pushed all the way out, just walk to Baron. While Source is stuck there with the minions, he needs to TP then, as you highlighted. You can even go to Baron like right now. If you are Udamis, you just force the vision and the mid lane push. He's around mid lane to guarantee that. But it's that slow Baron dance they're all looking at, and then they're waiting for one or two openings to find a few hits on the enemy, and then they just push minions, start the Baron. That's constantly what you're kind of playing around. Udamis is going to go bot now and do exactly that, push it out, and then walk to Baron. But Source now, right now with the window, that's a way to kind of force Fnatic mid lane control and force H2K back a little bit.
Here we go, this is it.
Starting up.
But right now Fnatic should actually be able to react. They're not even seeing it just yet.
Yeah, Brox is moving in, he has no idea. Someone could be waiting in the bush to kill him. Fnatic do see him coming, however, they immediately back off.
But the problem here for H2K is Source had already left bot lane.
Exactly.
He literally walked like a minute ago and said, peace, I'm out, I'm just gonna walk to Baron. So H2K needs to do this exact thing when Source is already sitting bot.
But for now, they're just trying to take down the Cho'Gath. TP is coming in. Soaz caught in the middle of the squad. Is going to use the Guardians don't play, but he's going to go down. That is the
Why
biggest
did he walk in
tool.
there? Why on earth did he walk back in towards the Baron pit when all of his teammates already walked away?
Now it's all on Broxa. So much pressure on him once again. Now he needs to secure from the other side. Can he be the member to leap over the walls to take this Baron down? Eyes on the Baron. 4K health getting lower. Fevin will have the miasma. Is he going to block the entrance? 2K. That's going to be burned down. He does get it! Broxa! That's the hero Fnatic needs, but now they have to face the fight. Fevin is moving forward, but the flashes are used, and they're going to walk away with the Baron. Guys, it's the exact opposite of game one.
The Fnatic caps burst, combined with the smite from Broxa, the black shield on him as well. Fnatic played that steal wonderfully, taking that objective away and getting exactly what they needed to keep alive in this game.
Is this just what we're going to see every game? Red side just gets to steal a Baron at 20-odd minutes.
They will learn now. They will learn. They'll be like, next time when we 4v5, let's just jump out of the Baron pit and fight the guy standing behind right there. Udamis is in a perfect position to force a team fight. His entire team can follow him, but instead they get the Baron so low, there's actually a chance for this to happen. It's a nice setup by Brox and Caps, but it's all being basically allowed by H2K. They could have turned and fought way earlier in a 5 versus 4. Instead, we get this happy face on screen.
Oh, the look of, oh, this is sad. We're losing this game to, hell yeah, I stole that Baron. Those are my favorite reactions.
But the big issue I have with this is Fnatic allowed H2K to do a very similar thing in game one. And I thought that H2K would be like, oh, okay, all we need to do is, we can play around division, we got a kill, we have so many options here. The only option we don't need to do is, let's go for a potential 50-50 smite. And fortunately for H2K, that was in fact the decision that they chose, and now they're going to have to pay for it.
And they're not strong enough to stop Fnatic from using this Baron buff. They're not finding the same picks that Fnatic found in game one to shut down H2K's Baron. But they're going to try now. Reckless moving forward. Yankos is in a bit of trouble. Caps tries to get some damage in, but Otoomni from the backside, he's going to take him down. Subjugate will grab the kill in the end. That's one over to Che. H2K going to stop this push for now.
That was a really good flash by Yankos just when the fight started, because Fnatic were trying to turn on him with the Cho'Gath, and then when he survived, all the cooldowns were spent on the Sejuani, and Cap suddenly found himself flanked by a Maokai, meaning H2K will stop the push, will also be able to pick up a Drake if they want a second one. Elder Drake actually will come fairly soon as well in this game. Sadly, it will be a fairly weak one.
Yeah, unfortunately for H2K, Fnatic got dealt the hand of triple Infernals in their game with the lead. They're not quite so fortunate.
To be fair, H2K did not go for any early Drake kills, so they didn't actually give themselves a chance to roll that Infernal Drake coming up next. I think the first Drake was killed around like the 20-minute mark, almost, with an Ocean Drake. So, if you don't take the chance and don't set yourself up for those Infernals, you get Ocean and Cloud Drakes.
But the thing
that's how the game works. Shame on you.
The thing is, I've actually heard a lot of pros saying that they see a lot of value in Ocean Drake during the early laning phase.
Oh, it's really good early on, yeah.
No investment early, but as you rightly identified, Deficio, very quick flash here from Jankos. He notices that thanks to a great pillar from Che, Caps has been segregated from the rest of his team, and then Odoamne can come in from the flank, get the collapse down, they end up getting the kill onto Caps, and then your mid laner, being dead, now has a lot less damage on your side of the team.
Does get to push ult, so his damage numbers look pretty good, but may not be enough. Odoamne,
Fast tree.
one zoning on the front line. Takes a lot of damage there, burns the Righteous Glory as well. Luckily sidesteps the Morgana binding, so isn't going to be sent to his death. But H2K clearly hungry to punish here now. A little bit of a Baron buff left on Broxa, but should be fading away shortly.
So the biggest thing here for H2K losing that Baron is it is very difficult to siege onto the towers of Fnatic because they have a Cho'Gath, a Sivir, and a Syndra. So every time you get close to the tower, not only is your minion wave going to be instantly cleared out, but the pick potential is very strong.
Che is just going to get taken down. No, is going to make it out. Subjugate makes him so tanky. Nuclear now firing back. Jesus is in trouble. Clean cuts, not going to fire through any further. Featherstorm still up and available. Nuclear pushing in. They're hungry for this dive, you can tell, but the wave clear is still there, even with Broxa gone.
And I cannot believe that Chase survived that play. The Subjugate doing so much work for him, allowing H2K to even get a return kill onto Broxa. We were just talking about how difficult it is to siege, and now one of those big pick threats has been taken off the board for Fnatic.
And it was a good engage from Broxa, but just did not respect the turnaround potential. H2K now pushing pressure.
Look at the flank, Odoamne.
Eyes on Reckless. He's going to be important for the damage, but Caps is crucial as well. Odoamne just trying to zone with that ultimate once again, and it does mean a tier 2 tower will drop in the favor of H2K. They extend their gold lead once again, now sitting on 5K.
And now with the last outer turret gone, they might have to wait for Baron to spawn once again. And then hopefully they've spent the time to discuss what went wrong. How do we change that for the next big play? Because Fnatic are sitting with that Sivir, who's getting a lot of items, and we gotta always mention that potential late game.
And this game's so very different, a lot less blood, 5-0 so far for H2K, only one tower for Fnatic.
Ooh, Fnatic might actually give H2K an opening to fight beforehand. 3 members just in the mid lane. Reckless' bot lane killing a tower. Sadly for H2K, they could not get the full engage, and also Febin was not there. So a bit of gold for Fnatic now, but look at H2K here, looking towards that mid lane.
To push in, if they can break open the inhibitor line, the game gets a lot easier, but Reckless approaching that terrifying point. 3 items plus the Ardent Sensor.
No minions yet.
Trying to tank this one down. This is a very confident play coming in from H2K. Stun off to the side, chain CC onto Odoamne, not tanking the tower quite yet.
That is a big shield.
Moving in, silence and the knockup. It's a slow and steady fight. Tank moves in, could be in trouble. Odoamne will get taken down by Caps. That's going to be crucial for Fnatic, but the fight cannot continue. There is no follow-up engage.
I think that call was actually smart by H2K to just try and rush down and see if they can kill the tower in time, but sadly for them, the minion wave was just a little bit too slow. So all the hits that with 4 members were against the buffed up tower. And then the turnaround here, Odoamne most likely could have walked away, but by him actually re-engaging in to try and dodge some damage, suddenly Caps and Reckless was in range to kill him. And that's now 25 seconds on this Maokai here. There's no deep wards he can TP to either. So Fnatic at least get the chance to push out a few more waves, and we're sitting on almost 400 CS for Reckless at the moment.
Oh, and this is the point. This is where H2K are going to have to be ready to out-execute.
So I just want to see if Odoamne can actually just walk away from this one. It's only 1 kill, but still it gives Fnatic at least some gold, because at this point here, everything is fine for him. He gets feasted, he's stunned up, and I think by him actually re-engaging in, he just puts himself in that situation where both carries can hit him.
Yeah, he actually puts himself in range of Caps' ulti, and I think if he'd kept warding, you are correct, Fish. I think he would have lived.
Easy to say as an armchair analyst sitting here being like, you know.
He would have lived for at least another couple seconds. We don't know what next step
Exactly, and it's just one kill. It's just one kill.
Now on the hunt is used. Caps, though, all on his lonesome.
Bit of a wide ulti there.
Has the luxury of the Black Shield. The cleanse comes out, the knockout. Goodbye to Febiven. Crucial carry now eliminated. Odo's TPing in, but it's Fnatic with the momentum. Now comes the redemption. Just going to find the heals. Maokai looking for the disengage, but Fnatic are in control.
Bit of a sporadic fight that I think Febiven was not prepared for. They saw that Caps was out of position. They want to try and get a collapse, but the Jankos ultimate goes completely wide. And because he's on the side, Fnatic uses an opportunity to run down mid.
And let's be clear, Fnatic have a Cho'Gath. If they take this Baron, it is not a 50-50. It is heavily in their favor. Eyes on Jankos. Can he steal this one away? He's going to get knocked up. He's going to get silenced. Knocked away from the pit. They get the kill onto Morgana. They are going to get the Baron in the end for Fnatic, but can they take the fight? Odoamne is zoning Caps out beautifully. Reckless fighting in the pit. Featherstorm comes out. Blade Caller not going to bring it back. Reckless finally going to flash away. So as debating, Odoamne may have pushed too far. Moving in, but no feast. Now Broxa is on the return. On the hunt, has been burned. Odoamne all on his lonesome, and Fnatic still walk away with the kill.
Yeah, that engage in mid lane was so important for Fnatic. Febiven got stunned up, didn't get to use his flash, and then suddenly they can go for that Baron. That was supposed to be H2K's. H2K won that early game. They were setting up the entire map and got all the outer turrets down. Lost that first Baron. Now they lose a fight in mid and lose the second Baron as well. Even Fnatic got a bit surprised about the damage from Reckless, so they flashed out of the pit when they were actually winning. Because look at this engage here. So this is 4v5. Jessus dies very early. Source will then feast the Baron. And now I understand why Fnatic are like, just run, just get out. We just want to keep the Baron buff. But the crits coming in just here from the Sivir ends up dealing so much damage onto H2K that I think if Rex just stayed, he might have just killed all of them. But obviously, for him, he's just trying to play it super safe.
And the thing is, for Odo, he didn't even recognize how low his AD carry got, so once he commits to trying to force Soaz to flash out, he then realizes, the rest of my team just got chunked out.
There's always that severe win condition. If you're too slow in these games and you don't have the tools to then completely shut her down, these kind of things can always happen, and it is Reckless playing with now 4.5 items.
And H2K have been here before. They have had advantages up against Reckless's Sivir where they have tried to close the game, and it has been so difficult for the team, but now they're looking to start a fight on their terms. Odoamne with the Righteous Glory, debating whether or not it's the right choice. Will use the ultimate. Shay running forward on the front lines. As long as that Subjugate is up, he is a lethal threat. But it's just a trade of cooldowns.
A lot of ultimates are used.
If they can take Reckless down, that's a massive shield. He's still ripping through the moon deep. Oh, Reckless is still alive. Nuclear getting lower and lower. Righteous Glory used. The silence comes in. Odoamne is in trouble, and he's going to get taken out.
And Caps was the real MVP of that fight. Such a fantastic stun to stop the re-engage from H2K. Fnatic with the Baron buff and 5 members are going to break into the base of H2K.
Pushing forward. They are going to be able to break through the inhibitor. Will they push for more? 40 seconds on Odoamne, 26 on Jankos. Fnatic finally find themselves with advantage.
Soaz can TP in, full HP on a minion. They have this AD carry, they can just burst through the towers. They're going for the finish.
No hesitation, one tower is going to drop. Nuclear needs to survive, but Broxa with the aggressive engage. Featherstorm comes out, Blade Caller not going to be enough because Soaz is here for a meal, but it's going to be Reckless ripping through the towers. It's going to be Fnatic finding a way to turn it around, and while Soaz goes for the cheeky 1v1, the team is just looking to end the game. Fnatic will move up 2-0 in their series versus H2K.
Great comeback from Fnatic and a horrible loss for H2K. They were already down 1-0. They were winning the early game. They did so many things correct. But when it came to the Baron, even in a 4v5 situation, they managed to allow Broxa in that Baron pit, lost the Baron itself, and then after that, lost some of those small following fights, and then suddenly you lose the game. Down 2-0 now. And then everything going for them to just even it out and be 1-1 at the moment.
And this was the fear. H2K, the mid to late game. We thought they were so in control for so long. They were playing the slow, clean macro game.
They were in control. It was their game. It was their game to lose. And then just one Baron steal suddenly gave Fnatic a breath of fresh air, and they're like, we can come back into this. We know we have the 3-item Sivir.
even then, I still feel like H2K was in control. It's that one moment where they all in on Febiven, where they commit everything, where Febiven is appropriately reminded how Cleanse is not effective against knockups. And they managed to cut through him, and Caps, a guy who had been put down for the entire series, pushes that skill button at the exact right moment to bring home a Baron for the team.
It's a tough loss for H2K when they were supposed to win here. Now they have to reset and regroup for the third game.
It's going to take a reverse sweep. Well, Fnatic managed to take the win after falling behind early. Let's leave it to the analyst desk to break down game 2.
Thank you very much, Dracos. Absolutely awful, really, for H2K. After starting out so good, because you guys were saying, wow, we love this draft from Prolly. Prolly really has his head in the game for game 2. Maybe the Maokai would have liked to see it change up, but overall, H2K came in with a fantastic game plan and a great early game, Yamato.
Like, I was a bit shocked at first, or not shocked, I was kind of hoping that Odamna would be put on a carry, but in the end it worked out camping top anyway with this tank Maokai. But in general, the thing that stood out the most to me was the Trundle. I think it denied the Cho'Gath, and on top of that, into the Sivir is also very, very good matchup-wise. The thing with Sivir, sure, she's good into some specific AD carries, but a lot of supports counter Sivir very hard, and Alistar and Trundle are two of those.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The draft definitely went into like H2K side. Like I thought H2K is gonna win this game for sure. In the early game, Junkos did some great moves onto Soaz. They were able to get a lead on the top lane, and I mean, they just had to close out the game correctly. Like, just the Baron dance. I don't know who is the shot caller of H2K, but there's a massive issue here. Like, it's not hard. Like, you push out mid lane, you push out top lane, you go into the enemy jungle, you put in the deep wards, you clear the enemy pings, and then you wait. But they always just go for the 50-50 Nash. Fnatic steals it, and then Reckless has time to get 6 items and just kills everyone.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at it because this is where the game turns. And of course, you're against the Cho this time around, so that'll be risky.
Oh, it's absolutely crazy that we're always in this situation where one team is like invited to the cinema, they don't even have tickets, you know, they're just standing there. When H2K should be the team pushing the mid lane turret, the waves in. Look at the waves. The waves are completely neglected. You need to push in all the way, control the top squadron, and then all of a sudden you are in the situation when enemy team has to face check every bush, and then it gets scary. But they just walk in, you know, no guard, cinema for free, no ticket, get in there, you know.
Get free in the cinema. And at the beginning of the draft, I'm going to give you credit. You said, well, this is a great draft by H2K. However, not to sound like a broken record, Reckless, if it's 50 minutes and he's on the Sivir, that's the only way. That is their win condition completely. And when this Baron got stolen, you said, this is it, Chalks. This is going to 50, and this is probably going to Fnatic.
I mean, Sivir is a champion that doesn't spike that hard in mid game because you build Essence Reaver and like you don't go IE instantly. And Essence Reaver is an item that really spikes hard when you have your 5th, 6th item. And especially when the player is Reckless, 6 item Sivir with a Morgana on your side, he's absolutely going to crush everyone.
Yeah, 100% kill participation for Reckless, also doing work in the next replay because after they sold that Baron, Fnatic, they didn't let up. They knew that they had the upper hand. And, you know, everyone's doing well here. Caps just decimates Febiven, and it's over straight from the start, Yamato.
Absolutely crazy. I think the mistake from the start was that H2K tried to contest River, and then they got caught off guard by, of course, the Cho'Gath Q. And if you're in a position with Cassio that you get caught by the Cho'Gath Q, then you're doing something wrong. And that's also the difficulty of Cassio. Very short range, you need to be very patient with your play at all times.
And there we go, they're going to just finish it off, they're going to turn.
Yeah, with Cho'Gath, that's a nice luxury you have with Cho'Gath. You always have the free Nash because of your feast. And yeah, they get the Nash, and now it's really interesting. Reckless stays in the pit, yes, flash. He doesn't instantly flash out. Look at this damage now.
I should have stayed. Oh.
Yeah, but he still destroyed everyone.
He was almost in Sweden.
Yeah. Almost in Sweden, but he's going to come back and do some damage. And in the end, Fnatic turned this one around. They turned around the entire game. And now it's that big question of momentum. And I want to talk about the junglers because they were so instrumental in this moment. You were saying before this moment, Broxa, I don't feel like he's there yet. I don't feel like he's in the game yet. I want to see him get to the game in game 3. And then he steals it, and you just saw it all the way, that smile on his face, and you just feel that momentum turning, and quite the opposite for Jankos.
Yeah, that's super huge. Like, Broxa didn't have the greatest game. He got quite out-jungled in the early game. But then, I mean, you don't win the game in the early game, right? It matters when you have the 50-50 Nash, and Broxa stole it, so it's a huge confidence boost going into the next game.
Yamato, talk to me about Sir Janko, semi-final versus G2, game 1, Trick steals his Baron. They never recovered.
Oof. I think hopefully he has learned from this one. I think Jankos, as a player, always... I've never seen him do the same mistake twice, at least in my time in Rocket, working with him. I think the main thing that he did, which was very good this game, was recognizing that bot lane is a boat, like it's Titanic, you know, you don't want to get on it at all. You just need to play around topside. Even though Odoamne was playing the Maokai, it worked out fine. They got a lot of pressure, Maokai got ahead, and Odoamne was very effective in the game. I want to see more of that, because that works for him.
We want to see more of that because you don't walk away from this with a feeling of like, oh, H2K was awful, their draft was awful, they played bad. No, not at all. But is this a case of Fnatic is just better today, or is this a case of some factors did not work out for them and they should be able to bring this back for H2K?
I think it's weird to say this, but Fnatic was quite lucky to win this game. In the sense where, like, I don't... How do I say this? Like, this was the chance of H2K to get back into the series, right? But now they gave this huge momentum away to Fnatic, and I think it's going to be 3-0 now. Like, the faces of H2K's players looked really crushed, so...
Right, yesterday after game 1 versus Unicorns, they were laughing all around, right?
Yeah, and today it's different. Yeah,
it's very different. Well, we'll see. We hope we can get 5 games, but Fnatic are just 1 win away from a spot at Worlds as they prepare for match point versus H2K. We'll be back for that after the break.
Well, the fans are ready, so it is time. Ladies and gentlemen, game 2 once again. Back ping coming out. Soaz they need to burn through Soaz immediately. Stun is going to go in. That's the permafrost. One more auto moving forward, and first blood, Miasma. Is he going to block the entrance? 2K, that's going to be burned down. It does get it! Broxa! That's the hero Fnatic needs, but now they have to face the fight.
Nice, guys. Nice.
Good job. Just like scrims, guys.
Soaz is here for a meal, but it's going to be Reckless ripping through the towers. It's going to be Fnatic finding a way to turn it around. And while Soaz goes for the cheeky 1v1, the team is just looking to end the game. Fnatic will move up 2-0 in their series versus H2K. EU LCS studio where Fnatic are up 2-0 versus H2K. And be sure to join us for the last post-game lobby of the season after the series as we look ahead towards Worlds in China. But for now, we still need to decide which team will go. Fnatic has the edge. They have blue side as well. And coming into game 3, one more win will secure that seed.
And there are only 2 teams left to be decided. That is the 3rd seed from Europe and the 3rd seed from North America. And that will be Counter Logic Gaming versus C9 later tonight. And we still have a series left to play for today. And this has already been a pretty exciting one. H2K, they had the opportunity to equalize the score, but Deficio, they couldn't play around the Baron, could they?
They could not play around the Baron. They didn't even have to kill the Baron, just have to take the fight.
Because Baron is such a new thing, you know.
It's been in the game for 7 years,
oh, really?
I believe. Ever since the game was released, there was a Baron in the game. And funny enough, it does... The way you set it up is kind of somewhat the same. Anyway, point is, under pressure, it can be difficult with the shot calling. Do you finish it? Do you take the fight? The 5 versus 4 fight? And so on. In the end, Fnatic actually bounced back because they managed to not only steal the Baron, but also win some following team fights, which is important to highlight. Game 3, though, H2K back on that red side makes it harder for them to get a good matchup for Nuclear in the bottom lane, because now H2K will look at that Kalista as a ban, most likely Xayah as a ban, and maybe even Tristana as a ban.
Now as we enter Champion Select, there is at least some good news for H2K fans. Yanko's laughing, the whole team laughing. Seems like spirits are still high. You do not have to worry about them collapsing under the pressure yet. Hoping for a game that H2K can win. They're hoping to bring it back. It's going to take a reverse sweep at this point. Maybe they can do it. Fnatic banning out the Cassio. Don't want to see it again. Kalista also going to be off the table.
So, it's not going to happen, but I'm going to say it anyway. H2K, I want them to stop banning away the Gnar. I want them to ban away Tristana and Xayah, force Fnatic onto some other AD carry, and then just play something like a Jace into the Gnar. I know Odoamne can do it. Right now, he might not feel confident, but I feel like it is a strategy that H2K as a team should be perfectly capable of executing. Jankos has been considered one of the best early game junglers that we have in Europe, and Odoamne is really talented. You can play towards this top side. It just relies a little bit on confidence to try and set it up.
I mean, the hard thing for Fnatic is, also for H2K, is the fact that their draft was really good. They were doing a lot of good stuff in that game, but they lost due to misplays. So they might try and get some of the same, but they're leaving that Tristana open once again for Regulus to take it.
And now we have to hope that H2K will immediately take the Alistar, because if not, they will be in the exact same situation they were in Game 1. And remember, they got obliterated in Game 1, and that's the adaptation
I like this.
we wanted to see.
I like this a lot. So by leaving the Gnar open, they can get it for themselves. And now the pressure is on Fnatic to try and find some kind of an answer. Likelihood is they're just going to lock in their jungler. They might try and go for an early mid lane pick here. Or they just go for one of the more defensive supports. Maybe even a Janna to answer the Alistar.
Yeah, one of the counters to Alistar is, you know, Ardent Sensor range support, because you can win the lane super hard against him. If H2K felt like they were going to get a safe laning phase now, where they would not be under a lot of pressure by taking away the Alistar, well, then they are wrong, because now they will get pushed to tower over and over and over. It is very difficult to play this lane. Sivir is still the expected AD carry choice against this Tristana here, but it's a tough one for Nuclear and Chain. They even leave the Sivir for now and let Fnatic potentially just ban it away.
Fnatic, though, may not be so concerned with what Nuclear is going to play. He has been suffering in the series thus far. Did have a decent Xayah game in Game 2. Still, however, was not enough. Mid lane and AD carry left to be picked. See what they want to go for. Maybe we'll see something new. Maybe it will still be the Sivir. H2K, though, have priority in the bans. What are they going to take off the table?
I mean, top lane is where Fnatic have so far not shown their pick, which is why H2K can pinch that role. I do not know if H2K are afraid of a Soaz Jace and want to actually ban it next time. It's not something we've seen Soaz use, you know, a whole lot here in the summer split. And there's a chance he just plays Maokai.
Unless they ban it away, of course.
Unless they ban the Maokai. That's the thing, right? If H2K is like, you're not going to play Jace, we can ban Maokai instead. If they actually are afraid he might play the Jace, they will ban the Jace.
Really, actually, incredibly curious to see what Soaz is going to go to here.
They say, you do not play Jace, you do not play Maokai either now.
Maybe a cannon could be on the cards, though. I do feel like that is something that Soaz has brought out before. I know you guys hate AP cannon.
Oh, I hate it so much!
So useless every time I watch it.
But it's a possibility in terms of options for Fnatic to go for. The most obnoxious champions for a Canon to play against are Tristana and a Janna and a Gragas. They've all been taken off the board.
And of course, Nuclear known for the Ashe and the Varus in so many scenarios. They want to put him onto a less comfortable matchup. Does get his hands on the Caitlyn, not as popular as she once was.
There's also a world where it is Gragas top for Soaz. If he doesn't feel like he has any good matchups left he wants to play, and you can pick things like a Zac in the jungle for Broxa. There's always the chance of doing that. But it is most likely just going to be Gragas jungle. It is the preferred pick for Broxa, and we get Syndra once again. Last game, not very successful in the early game, did not play around the lane at all. Broxa went to the top lane instead, trying to babysit Soaz, and did actually cost Caps quite a lot, but by removing the Cassiopeia here, he's not going to face that same matchup.
Really debating, still the potential flex pick. Doesn't look like we're going to get it. It looks like instead, we're going to have a bit of a throwback. Gentlemen, Shen in the top lane. Oh man, so many potential options here on the opposite side for H2K, but very classic Fnatic comp.
We saw the Shen yesterday from Vizicachi into Odo, and unfortunately for him, he fell behind very hard in the early game, which allowed Odo to run absolute rampant off in a side lane. This matchup can be very dependent on who gets that early lead and how much of an advantage it is. But in terms of teamfight, I feel like H2K have a pretty big advantage with the amount of overall crowd control they have, their scaling, but also their ability to see. They have a lot of poke with this composition that they've drafted.
So got that Caitlyn from Nuclear, not the Sivir, trying to get a bit more power in his early laning phase. But after the Caitlyn nerfs happened, it obviously cost quite a lot in the early game. And again, you're still facing a Janna on the side of Fnatic with this Tristana here. So it will be a very hard lane for Nuclear and Che to play, also just based on the individual skill compared to who they're facing. And they cannot afford to fall super far behind.
But if they can make it to the mid game, if they can get a lead even in the early game elsewhere on the map, you have the Gnar for the Siege, the Corki for the Siege, Caitlyn with 5 traps to set up. It's going to be very difficult for Fnatic to deal with. But Fnatic are also one of the best teams, I would say the best team in the LCS right now, at using Shen at that level 6 point to just blow open a lead.
When it comes to engaging against a Siege comp though, that's where I have a few concerns for Fnatic. I know a lot of people say, but there's a Gragas, he can always all in, and that is true. But when Broxa was put on the sole engage champion in the semi-final, he did not pull the trigger. He was much better as a follow-up player. So Jess has played a lot of support, a lot of engage, or Soaz played a lot of engage. Now it is back on Broxa. If that siege is being set up, he needs to be the man who dives in with the Shen ulti on to get into that, backline of H2K. If he doesn't do it, then suddenly Corki and Caitlyn will do a lot of work on the towers.
Chance for Broxa to prove himself, a chance for H2K to fire back as we move to game 3. Fnatic, 1 win stands between them and a spot at Worlds, but H2K, it's gonna take the reverse sweep.
It's gonna yes.
Coming back against the crowd.
Thanks for the support to Fischio. But it feels like the support is heavily in favor of the Fnatic squad for the time being. But it looks like we're just going to see the line of scrimmage. No fancy level 1 plays like we saw from the Unicorns yesterday.
Luckily, in this game here, we might get more action in the early game just based on this Tristana Janna lane, and then, of course, the Shen, who can always join if they want to go for potential tower dives.
Well, hang on a second to Fischio. I think that's the first time I've ever heard anyone say that a Janna lane will result in action.
I'm just saying, if they're gonna just perma-push that bot lane, H2K needs to react and and have some way out of it, and that is by forcing a fight, and that means we should get action.
That would be the hope.
Hopefully.
I would love that.
It might also just be them surrendering on the towers and being like,
My experiences of a Janna are very much shield AD carry. You can do what you like now. And there's not much that Alistair can do about it.
And that's why I play Janna. 1 button to win the lane. Feels pretty good, but gonna have to give respect to Che and Nuclear. Che especially has been incredibly good on the playmaking champions. His Rakan, you've seen consistently banned away, and for good reason. Have to see if he can put up a similar performance on the Alistair. Does also bang the cowbell for anyone wondering, so.
And also, actually, one thing that happened for H2K during the regular season when they kept beating all the bottom teams was that Nuclear and Che were never really struggling 2v2. against all the bottom teams here in the LCS. So Che very often got kind of unleashed. He was actually allowed to leave the lane. He could go mid lane. He could join with Jankos and invade enemy jungle. And he could really utilize the playmaking potential. And I think he looked really good doing that. But against the top teams in Europe, and especially the best bot lanes, we've just seen Nuclear and Che struggle in that 2v2. It means Che cannot leave his lane and he can't use that good roaming and playmaking potential of his. And then suddenly he's not having the same impact in the early game. And let's see what I can do in this lane down here in the bottom lane. It's going to be a lot on Nuclear specifically against the Tristana.
And you can see that with the Caitlyn, after her nurse to her wave clear and also the base attack speed that she had during early levels, it means that she doesn't quite have the same level of clear, but they've been able to get a very early level too, and there's that all-in threat that they have to respect. But you're basically trading auto attacks against the abilities plus auto attacks of Reckless that are then further empowered by the Janna shield. So every time she tries to walk up and hit Reckless, the Caitlyn is going to very regularly lose that 1v1.
For now, all is quiet. Bot lane seems to be quite even. We check in on the junglers. Jankos still feels pretty dominant thus far, but no one with a major advantage. Top lane being pushed in as expected, and a bit more aggression on the bottom side. Trap's a little late. Combo not going to work out there. Good invade from Jankos. Once again, Brox of the Smite King will make it out. Permafrost does connect. Odoamne is here, but just going to give it the blast coming.
I like Jankos' focus on top side, though. Really try and get Odoamne to win this lane so he can become a split pusher as well. Force the Shen to play passive. And if Shen ever leaves the lane, then Odoamne maybe can take a tower. Like, you really want to have this Gnar winning. It seems to be the main win condition for H2K. Also looking at the game 5 yesterday, where Unicorns of Love and H2K had this exact top lane matchup.
You've got to remember the power of the package, too, from the Corki. Something that we felt was a little underutilized, I feel, from the Corki, was trying to just use this package around the rest of the map. And what you can do with it is, if you've got so much pressure from the Gnar into the Shen, you just move Featherman up with Jankos and you just use that really good mobility tool to cut off Soaz's escape, set up a dive, and then you allow, well, you could deny the level 6 play on the bot from Soaz, but also just get that Odo rolling.
Can have a very huge impact. But for now, Jungle's trading back and forth. Jankos a little bit behind in terms of XP, paying a little bit more attention to the mid lane.
It's fun. Whenever I see, Sejuani Gragas just kind of hit each other once or twice, I think back to the glory days of Lee Sin and Elise always fighting each other, and you were like, someone's gonna die here whenever they find each other. Not in the tank matter, fighting bot lane though.
Right now, all in. Exhaust has been used. Reckless taking a lot of damage. Trap does not trigger up. That means no free extra crits for Nuclear. But definitely a winning trade in favor. Now Brox is here, however. Jankos too far away at the moment.
And so far in the bottom lane, Jess has not been able to interrupt the combos from Che. Actually setting up good trades here for H2K specifically. But then Brox is trying to deny Fibben some farm, but again, with Che finding the engages onto Reckless, Nuclear can actually win them as well, and it's allowing H2K's bottom lane to do very well. So good to see from them here in this game 2, the Caitlyn working out.
It's a nice look. I was honestly very concerned when Reckless got his hands on the Tristana again. The Janna a little less aggressive, and Che doing incredibly well on the Alistar, sort of as expected.
It's just a big problem for Che. If he gets interrupted by the Hurricane from a Janna, like he won't actually apply his CC onto Reckless, and then suddenly he's taking a lot of damage in return on the way out. Brox has snuck his way in behind H2K. Oh, the all-in from Che. He's gonna get punished.
Body slam. Jesus moving forward, trying to lock him down. Good damage comes in from Reckless. Eye of the Storm gives him a big boost. Brox is going to body slam him back. Che is now in trouble, and it looks like he will drop. The heal comes out. Reckless. Flash forward. Jez is moving in. First blood for the Janna.
And they were just waiting for the all-in from Che. The moment that headbutt pulverize came in, Broxer was lying in wait. He came down through the river, utilized the blast gun to catch them off guard. Now Caps is the one that might be in trouble, but he's probably going to flash.
4 stack will get locked up. He's just going to use the cleanse, slow and steady onto Jankos. Lots of...
Oh! Look at the face of frustration there on Jankos. So I was sitting there thinking, hang on a second, if Caps gets another ball down, that's going to be 5 balls to the face. And I don't think a level 4 Jankos is going to be able to hold on to that.
No one ever wants to take that much, Vedius. It's a difficult situation to be in. And I got to say, Fnatic need to be praised. They saw H2K. They saw this play coming. They knew Che was hungry for those engages. Broxa was there to punish.
It's the mind games from Jesus in lane being like, look, Che, you can always engage on my AD carry. I will not do anything. Just keep doing it over and over. And then when Shay does it so far up in the lane,
He says, it's not the AD carry you gotta be scared of. Flash, Zephyr, Auto, dead.
and the jungler as well. So Jankos trying to force a flash here from Caps. Doesn't realize he's taking so much damage and there's so many balls on the ground that will soon get fired at him.
But the biggest thing here is that Febiven was just stuck mid. He had to clear the wave. He was not able to support his jungler, and it's level 4 versus level 6. Like, that's just...
I think he just wanted to force a flash or try.
I think so, yeah,
and
I
just
think so.
walk away. Just walk away.
But then he stuck around a little bit too long, and he gave away his life. So now 2-0 to Fnatic.
And with bot lane struggling now, and mid lane struggling as well, our eyes have to turn naturally to the top side of the map. Gnar should be advantaged. Small CS lead for Odoamne. We've seen him be clutch on this champion. But is the lead he has right now big enough? What can this man do to bring his team back into the game?
Well, he really wants that black clear as fast as possible to see if he can actually force Source out of lane. We've even seen 1v1 kills in the Gnar versus Shen matchup, but right now he's not really getting enough time from the rest of his team, because Fnatic, after that little kill in mid and the kill bot lane, are now sending Broxah down to bot lane to place the most obvious TP ward in the world, just to signal, if you move past this ward here and it's still alive, we will TP and kill you. So, good guy Che puts down his control ward to kill it.
Tristana still doing a lot of damage to the tower. Explosion does hit. Looking for the engage onto Broxah. Tower burns down a little bit, but not enough to actually fall.
Another thing I should highlight about the ward we're seeing as the TP is on cooldown from Source is also just to spot if H2K are sending multiple members down the lane in case there is a tower dive being set up by Fnatic. So it wasn't just a TP ward. Overhyped that one a little bit. I was really hoping it would have been. But
Also, Shen has an ult.
Shen does have an ult, he doesn't really need it. It was just to give some good vision through the lane. He got control ward anyway. Source is just sitting top and crying because he can't really do anything.
And think about now the options for H2K, because game plan was bot lane goes even. You maybe send Jankos and Febiven up to the top lane to try and shut down Soaz early on. Maybe deny his level 6 ultimate play. But now the bottom lane, they already fall behind. Good gank coming out from Broxah. Caps picks up a kill, which puts Jankos behind, meaning that he can't really put any kind of early pressure down due to that setback. And now because of the control that Fnatic have over the bottom lane, H2K are forced to come down to the bot side. And there's just a Shen waiting for the counter gank.
It's good though that Odoamne, actually, sorry to interrupt there, but it's good that Odoamne is actually saving his TP just so he can match.
Yeah.
Because Nuclear is keeping even in farm. He even on the first back actually got a dagger and a BF sword. So because the assist went to Reckless and the kill went to Jessis, it obviously means faster Ardent Sensor, so it actually is a win for Jessis specifically and Fnatic. But it at least means they can keep even.
Package used. Shen ult going to be used as well. Caps running for his life. Good damage comes in. The follow-up now from the Shen as well. Jankos set to burn. Another kill fired out for Fnatic, and already action on the bottom side in response. But Soaz looking for a little bit of a follow-up. The flash forward. Febiven going to have to flash out to safety. Caps pretty far away, but Soaz may look to follow this up. Scatter the Weak not going to connect. Blast Cone is there for the escape, but the taunt lands as well. But it's just Soaz versus the Corki.
And it's the Shen ult that you've got to respect. H2K, they tried to put a gank hat down into the middle lane. Immediately Soaz is there to keep his mid laner alive. Caps did use his flash in the exchange, but they've gained pressure mid. Broxah is free to go down to the bottom lane, and things are just snowballing out of control for H2K. And you have to start thinking about that mental fortitude, because Jankos is falling very far behind in this early game.
Still all in, you just talked about here. There is a Mega now for Odoamne to try and interrupt it, but he's too far away because Source has already stepped behind his tower. So nothing he could do to actually save Jankos in that mid lane. And as you highlighted, Vedi is just a little bit too aggressive of a gank. You can only really pull that off if you know you can interrupt the Shen ulti, which was not the case here.
When we look back on game 2, you can see H2K pretty comfortably in small leads, starting to build it up bigger and bigger. But this game looking a lot more like game 1, where Fnatic are firing shots very early into the game. 2K gold lead, only 11 minutes in. Odoamne really the only point of pressure on the map for H2K.
But the fact that H2K is still pushing in top and will get this top lane tower eventually is okay for Odoamne specifically. The problem is for the rest of the team. Febiven is behind in mid. His tower will take damage. Bot lane tower is extremely low after some of those plays from before. So it's on Febiven and Nuclear to hold on for as long as possible while Odoamne is doing all the work in top. However, one bad fight from H2K and they lose 1 or 2 towers. They're trying to get a kill mid.
Moving in, CC goes down. Cap's gonna get locked up, running now for his life as Jankos tries to follow up with a little bit more damage. Rockets from Febvin looking for the sidestep. Caps is donezo though. Odoamne gonna snag that one.
So finally, H2K get a successful punish. They play around the window that Soaz cannot save the mid laner. No flash available on Caps, and while he plays that as well as he can, the flank or the rundown from Odo gives him a kill, and now this is gonna make this 1v1 even better.
And everything around that mid lane is just H2K wards, like control wards as well, and yet Caps without flash, pushing to that tower, over-aggressive, gets punched, and this is huge for H2K to try and get some gold back here, because now they're gonna get more damage on top tower. They don't have to worry about the mid lane for a while. And just to say that, Febvin is taking some damage, but he's fine.
Red buff falls off of Broxa. No chance to push any further. Odo will rake that top tower.
Yes, first tower now for H2K. Caps here got very complacent after getting early kills. Being so aggressive in lane without a Shin ulti and any wards around him.
And just a minute ago, it was a 2K gold lead for Fnatic, now brought back. H2K only 500 gold behind, a reasonably negligible difference at this point in the game. Black Cleaver as well, completed for the Gnar. He continues to be a massive threat. But Ardent Sensor now coming in for Jesus. That's a big concern for Nuclear and Che. 80 steroid, on-hit effects. Janna definitely a terrifying prospect to play against, especially when it's the pocket for Reckless.
This obviously means for Fnatic they want to keep playing around that bot side if they can. Odoamne snuck his way to the mid lane, still no flash from Caps. Engage bot lane.
Che hitting Jesus. The immediate Monsoon encounter out. TP has been used. H2K hoping to get more from that play, but going to count against them. Caps firing the stun in the mid lane, just a bit of trading, however. At the end of the day, a lot of resources committed for H2K, but what are they going to get from it?
The thing is here from H2K is they tried to make the play down bot proactively using their teleport, but trying to lock down the Janna and the Tristana, very difficult. You have the Monsoon, you have the jump from Reckless. They are able to get the flash out from the Janna, but now Soaz has both his ulti and TP, which means that Fnatic, they have a lot of options available to them. As you can see with Broxa and Caps moving very aggressively into H2K's jungle.
And Febvin just can't join fights. Like, he's so weak in this lane at the moment. Had to go for Hexdrinker as well to try and stay alive. Constantly pushed on the tower by the Syndra, so it's Caps moving first unless there's a package for Febvin.
Flash of Broxa, follow-up, Permafrost does connect. Blue buff used to try to find the disengaged Shen ulti has been consumed. Now looking to find the fight. Moving forward, Reckless hungry for a little bit more. Fnatic pushing further into the blue side jungle. Not gonna get anything. Odo continues the pressure.
Very interesting call there by Fnatic, not actually just committing to the fight, but Broxa disengaged first. I think he was waiting for Source to be out of range from a potential interrupt by the Gnar. And then the re-engage after great stun from Caps suddenly meant they couldn't actually get onto the targets. All of HK just disengaged. Will be a mid lane tower for Fnatic though, but Odoamne getting a lot of work done in that top lane still.
And of course, Reckless pushing on the bottom side, but that tier 2 so close to death. Odoamne continues to be the strong point for H2K. 30 CS lead in his favor, but Reckless also starting to pull out with a lead of his own. Janna also there to back him up. That's going to be another tower for Fnatic.
So Fnatic just playing it safe around blue buff. Waiting for Source to be ready. Not risking losing just the jungler here, knowing they will get 1 or 2 towers eventually. To get that big goal lead. Should be a Rift Herald though for H2K. Caps is on his way back to lane, but Broxa is recalling, so no one here to actually stop it.
Big win condition right now for H2K is still to play through Odoamne. This guy has been doing extremely well in terms of the early game, and now H2K, they're investing a gank up top.
Hyper proc, double bounce, knock up, taunted, knocked into the wall and taken down. Actually, nice pickoff comes in from H2K.
And there's no way for Fnatic to truly punish. They are grouping up as a 3-man around the Dragon area, and his Caps against Febby.
Open for 5-ball ult. Could make it 6 for a moment here. Not going to use it though. Baits out the package. Definitely not the ideal use. Meanwhile, Fnatic are going to grab the Ocean Drake.
Yeah, they'll just trade this for the tier 2 in the top lane. Now, bear in mind, Odo, with the minion wave, should be able to just take it down, and then they could potentially use that Rift Herald to siege onto the tier 3. But no, they're actually just going to use it to take down that tower. And I think this is a fine trade for H2K, still keeping the gold relatively close.
I mean, H2K could have gotten a full charge on the next tower if they just saved it. Just a few seconds, let Odoamne kill the tower here. Will still be some damage on the inhib turret. Sadly for HK, it's really hard to take it down this early in the game, and Source is here to try and defend and stop Odoamne from doing anything.
Yeah, attacks to the eye, so it's going to grab an extra 25 gold there. But good pressure coming in once again. So much focus on the top side. Febiven luckily still farming pretty comfortably. Will start to come back once he can get that Trinity Force.
And it's kind of fun that Odo Amne has been getting both his kill and assist due to Fnatic actually overextending in a lane without really having a purpose behind it. Caps did it in mid lane. We had no wards, no flash. Died to Odo Amne. Top lane right before you was Source doing exactly the same thing on his side. Died also to the gank here from Che, Jankos, and of course Odo Amne. So that's at least some gold going over to this Gnar. That could be very, very useful for him. And now he needs to go to the bottom lane, play around the next few towers, and just keep trying to funnel gold into his team by killing towers in the side lane.
Jankos caught out a little bit, but is still throwing out damage onto Soaz. The Reckless just rips through these towers. The attack speed, Zero Ardent Sensor making it all too easy. Taking his time as he clears the wave out as well. Yet another tower dropping for Fnatic. 2.5k gold lead for themselves once again.
And it's important to recognize that Fnatic, they do have a healthy gold lead, as you just identified, Dracos. They still have a strong grasp over the map right now. The only strong point for H2K is Odo Amne off on this side lane, but Reckless, he still has a healthy advantage over Nuclear. Caps has been constantly pushing Febiven underneath his tower. And while we are keeping our eyes on Odo, like Fnatic still have so much control over the rest of the game.
Have a much stronger mid game as well with a fairly fed Syndra and then an Ardent Sensor Tristana. Caitlyn is still fairly weak in the mid game unless she can utilize her traps, so her damage is very low at the moment. The same can't be said for an almost 2-item Tristana with, again, as I highlighted, a attack speed, attack damage shield and an attack speed buff from an Ardent Sensor. Like, Reckless already in the mid game is set up to carry.
One of the players I'm keeping my eyes on in this mid game will be Broxah. You brought it up in draft, Deficio, where he is one of the main engagers. We did see that during the semi-finals, his confidence was not of the highest. He wasn't the guy starting off a lot of these fights, and he was part of a detriment to a lot of the fights from the side of Fnatic. So a lot of the focus will be on him to try and make things happen and use this early lead that Fnatic can build up for themselves.
And any of those weaknesses you mentioned, it's definitely something you want to prove is no longer a problem as you get ready for the world stage. Fnatic still 1 win away. Qualifying as Europe's 3rd seed. If Brox comes in with a massive performance, if he destroys H2K here, it's going to look so good for him.
Yeah, the good thing for Fnatic is they can rely on just pushing minions at the moment with Janna and Tristana and just constantly force, you know, H2K to try and defend wherever Reckless and Jesus will be going. We know that Tristana just need a bit of time on a tower to take it down, but they're trying to use that advantage to say we don't need to actually force teamfights right now, we just need to force down objectives. But again, they're racing against Odo Amne specifically, who's now killed another tower in the bottom lane. Looking for that tier 2 tower as well. And honestly, the nightmare for Odo Amne right now is having to TP away. He wants to just keep pushing 1v1 and not care about the rest of the map.
He wants to go back exclusively for the Frozen Mallet, which he will use to make Soaz's life hell, and he's very close to doing so. 50 CS lead up over Soaz. Odo Amne doing so well this game. H2K, I think the priority on the Gnar, giving up to Tristana, does feel like it was worth it.
So far, at least, Odo Amne is definitely doing everything he can. Now, the problem as a split pusher in a tank meta is that these tank comps can so often just run to Baron, start the Baron, and force the split pusher to react. He needs to TP in and join the fight to stop it from happening. So Fnatic at the moment are just giving it a few more minutes before they might look to just really force that Baron play that forces Odo Amne to teleport, and then he won't be able to just sit bot lane and keep killing towers.
But once again, we enter that mid-game lull. Baron's the next objective, but it's 20 minutes. It's too early to force anything like that. It's the trade of creep waves. It's the push back and forth. They just got to keep focused on the game. Clear and Che focused on a potential engage here.
Ooh, there's actually TPing in now. They're going to try and collapse on them. Broxah is on top side.
Che here. Ooh, nice interrupt. Flash out. Reckless looks like he could still be okay. Gnar coming in on the backside. Now Fnatic could potentially look to turn. So many cooldowns already burned, but in goes the Porky. In goes the package. Reckless still alive and well. Doing what he can to keep moving forward in the fight. H2K retreating strong as 5. So much damage, but oh no, he wants to turn it back. Nuclear still hitting the backline for free. Shen blocking what he can. Reckless is firing back. Caps is firing back. Febiven is running for his life. He's looking to get the bounces. He's looking to keep it going. He wants to go to Worlds. Fnatic in control.
It's a huge team fight. We already talked about how much stronger the Tristana will be here in the mid game compared to a Caitlyn. There's so many buffs from Reckless. He already sits on 2 items. And Caps, of course, after winning that mid lane. H2K just tried to force a team fight. They didn't even have to go for it. They could just keep split pushing with Odo Amne, but they go for that all-in against Reckless and Jessis.
And they saw an opportunity here. They saw two members of Fnatic out of position. They thought that they could punish, but again, the Shen ultimate, the fact that Gragas was running up through the river.
And that interruption here from Jessis on the combo from Jay was also key to get away.
And just keep your eyes on Caps here. His ability to land this 4-man stun onto H2K is what gives them time to regroup. Jankos, the big front line, now gone. Odo, there's not enough follow-up damage, and Reckless is just untouched in the fight.
Dealing so much damage here after Caps' beautiful stun. And as we said before here, this is actually the moment where H2K are weak in this game. They do not have an AD carry who can deal proper damage. They have a split push who's winning the side lane. But by making this play here, trying to catch Reckless and Jessis out, they allowed Fnatic a 5-on-5 team fight because they can use Shen ulti, and they had both Broxa and Caps close to where we saw this, fight break out.
So as is going to land the taunt. Good to see a fight here as Odoamne going to get knocked back. Good damage drops onto him.
Ooh, Jay.
H2K composition, good at sieging, not so great at the wave clear though at this moment in the game. Means that Fnatic are pretty comfortable pressing forward.
Jay can't do anything because Odoamne is back in base, so he's just kind of sitting behind Fnatic.
All alone. That's going to be an inhibitor tower taken down. Inhibitor is next. This is going to be a big difference. Soaz is simply backing up. That's a lot of damage. Jankos is the last ditch effort from the fight. They are going to take down Caps. Jay on the backside is going to get the 3-man knockup. Reckless, the most important target remaining. Knocked back into the team. Odoamne trying to do what he can, but Reckless does so much damage. Soaz being the front line, Jessis shielding him up. That's the double. He's looking for a little bit more than trap. The saving grace for H2K. He's going to grab the triple. Fnatic are cleaning house.
Huge team fight once again for Fnatic. They stop the comeback from H2K. There will be no reverse sweep today. And 23.5 minutes, Fnatic are going to take the 3-0.
And it was not choking for H2K. It was Fnatic proving themselves worthy of that spot in Worlds. It is the 3-0. It is the third seed. It is Fnatic back on the world stage. Fantastic performance across the board. It was dominance in Game 1 and Game 3. In Game 2, it was a comeback, I think, of epic proportions. Has to feel good for the Fnatic members.
The best team in the regular season. Struggled in the playoffs. Lost the semifinal to Misfits, then bounced back in the third place game, but had to go through the gauntlet here to actually make it to Worlds. Very, very important win for the players and the organization.
But their tough road doesn't end now. They've got to go to the play-ins. There's going to be a lot of tough competition. They will still have to get through in order to qualify for the World's group stage.
It's important, though, that Fnatic have a superstar AD carry they can definitely rely on during the play-ins to try and qualify to the group stages. Same thing can say about Source up in the top lane. What a great split from him overall.
It's been a good look for the team across the board. The all-ins on the bottom side from Jessis and Reckless. A few of those team fights from Caps on the Syndra. The 4-man stun you pointed out, Vedius. Coming in clutch. The grin on Brox's face, I think that says it all. That man is going to Worlds. That man is going to China. For H2K,
it's rough for them, right?
It's hard.
They had a really good gauntlet run. They were able to get very close games, but a 3-0 regardless over Splice. They went all 5 games. They finally were able to defeat their rivals, but they just couldn't match up to Fnatic on
I mean, they're mainly going to be looking at that game 2 and say, guys, we had it all. Like, it was right there. We were going to win that game, bounce back in this series. But when you lose a game like that, it's so hard then going into the next game to kind of reset everything. And we saw in this game here early on, there were some people getting punished. Like, Cap suddenly got a few kills in the mid lane from Jankos. Down in the bottom lane as well, the first gank was a success from Brox, and then suddenly Fnatic were looking really strong, and it seemed almost impossible for H2K to bounce back.
and across the series, one player did stand out. Our player of the series will be Reckless. A lot of highlight moments from many Fnatic players, but Reckless was the consistent threat. Did not die in this series.
And you can just see from his CS scores how convincing he was in terms of the laning phase. To be fair, game 2, his high kill participation was because, remember, Fnatic, they had 0 kills in the first 25 minutes, and then they won a bunch of fights because he got to that late game Sivir point.
Important for him, though, to make Worlds again. He talks about this a lot, about how last year was such a huge disappointment for him. They had to rebuild the Fnatic roster after losing Huni and Reignover. The roster didn't click. As a captain, he struggled as well to have the impact he wanted to have, and the team failed to make the World Championship for the first time. And the fact that now they return to play, I should say for the second time, because Season 2, technically, they didn't make it, so I'm just going to stop myself there. The history is important. They're back at Worlds, though.
They're back at Worlds. I love it. You're very dramatic hand motions.
A lot of fans are going to be excited.
I'm like, Season 2.
So we have G2, we have Misfits, and we have Fnatic representing Europe at Worlds. The only one left is North America, which will be happening later on this evening. But I think a lot of fans are very happy with our representatives. I feel like H2K, they definitely put up a good show. But at the end of the day, they couldn't quite match up to the power of Fnatic. And I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys can do on the internationals.
When we look at like Gauntlet expectations, when you look back at what we thought before we saw any of these teams play, Fnatic were the safe bet. And I think for good reason. Maybe Splice was a dark horse. Maybe Unicorns of Love. H2K also, after their showing in 3rd place, I still felt pretty confident that they could get there. But when it came down to it, Fnatic with a 3-0, that's, I think, the best thing that could have happened for them now to go to Worlds as well.
Yeah, exactly. Also because the play-ins will start very soon. You do not have a lot of time to prepare for the next thing. And having the confidence and knowing that the current style you're playing actually works, at least in your home region, to make you one of the best teams that can go to Worlds is important for them. Obviously, there's a few patches happening, but no insanely big changes.
Curious to see, of course, coming up shortly will be Reckless, our player of the series, on the post-game lobby. Excited to hear what he has to say about the series, about Worlds ahead of him, about being the captain. He had so much to say in that MVP interview. I have to imagine it feels good for him to finally qualify. But it was a lot on the line this week, and the players stepped up with some solid performances. Let's take a moment to highlight the biggest plays brought to you by Acer Predator. Now, Febiven, he found himself surrounded in Game 3 versus Splice. Instead of running away, he decided to fight back and managed to pull off a big turnaround.
Let's see if they can pick up Febiven. Nowhere for him to go trying to lead these minions all the way through. Still dangerous, cornered. If Syndra gets a pick off, that's going to be #worth.
This could be like one of the biggest outplays.
Yeah, but wait for the Jarvan. Just wait for the Jarvan. Auto teleport.
Trash is on the way. He's trying to ruin it. Oh, he's
in! Oh my goodness, you gotta turn it around! He gives his life. Febiven falling, but he did his job.
Yeah. Okay. Jarvan is from Jarvan coming on the side. Oh, nice. I kill Jarvan, I will kill Jarvan. Okay, I go to you. If you kill Jarvan, we can jump.
All right, so that's why they banned Chase Rakan, in case you were wondering. That little 2-man instantaneous knockup right there.
Yeah. After the stun landed from Febiven, though, like, that was a big play from the Syndra. Just kind of dancing around, not dying, being so low, and then landing a stun into, like, a little bit of burst damage.
We were debating this at length. We're like, at this point in Splice, you just have to suicide someone in, hope that he burns skills on them so the other guy can get the kill. There's just, it feels like there's no way out at that point.
Yeah. Really good play from Febiven. He was considered, during the regular season, to be the best performing mid laner, and I think that he still is definitely among the top here in Europe.
Definitely the case. Well, H2K's Otawamne had some big engagements against Unicorns of Love yesterday. In Game 2, he caught Samix out of position and flashed in to secure that kill. Exile comes out of the brush. The ward in the mid lane does give H2K a lot of information. Moving around, Jankos is off to the side. They see Unicorns of Love in the pinch. Exile retreats. Samix in a lot of trouble here, leaping forward. Oh. Beautiful play from Otawamne. Not going to be a chance for Samix to make it out in the end.
That was so good from Odo. He knew that he was going to get knocked back from the Tristana ultimate, so he flashes, uses his ulti, which cannot be interrupted by CC, to then avoid the knockback from Samix. Now, this is arguably a little risky from Odo, but he knows what he can do there. The flash ulti from Odo, knowing that he cannot be displaced.
I can go on Rumble here.
Yeah. It's not bad. Look. I will come. Tristana or what? Tristana flash.
Tristana.
Can you chase?
Nice. Yeah, nice.
Okay, can we go mid hard? Look, Syndra maybe. Should I ult?
I don't know we.
I feel like that color caster broke that down perfectly. I don't know if there's really much to add to what he said.
I mean, that's true. Actually,
He's technically immune to all CC. It's not just that he can't be displaced. So the colorcaster was technically
Funny enough, I actually talked to Odo after the series, and he was like, yeah, that game with Jarvan, man, I I was so bad in the early game. Everything he did was just wrong. But then, for some reason, past 20 minutes, he just like turned it on and he just did everything perfectly on Jarvan. So that was quite impressive.
We highlighted him as player of the series. Then you look at the game one score where they won. It's like 1-3 and a bunch of assists.
Yeah.
But he did so much work. Of course, in the end, did fall, and it wasn't looking good for Fnatic in Game 2 today. Then their Danish jungler decided to take matters into his own hands and came up with a clutch Baron steal. Now it's all on Broxa. So much pressure on him once again. Now he needs to secure it from the other side. Can he be the member to leap over the walls to take this Baron down? Eyes on the Baron. 4K health getting lower. Fevin will have the miasma. Is he going to block the entrance? 2K. That's going to be burned down. He does get it! Broxa! That's the hero Fnatic needs, but now they have to face the fight. Fevin is moving forward, but the flashes are used, and they're going to walk away with the Baron. Guys, it's the exact opposite of Game 1.
I think just jump in. No.
Go now.
Nice. Just leave, whoever can leave. Nice, guys, nice.
Good job. Just like scrims, guys.
Nice, guys, nice.
Good job. Just like scrims, guys.
Now we have 7 more minutes.
Just like scrims, guys. Just like
All
scrims.
part of the plan.
Man, that play just tilts me so hard, man. H2K just had the easiest setup in the world.
You said it best, Officio, during the downtime. Hey, it's not like Baron's a new objective. It's been in the game for 7 years.
All 5 members had flash ready. Multiple had already jumps they could use over the wall. The marker was already in a flanking position. There were like a million ways to just jump over that wall and kill all the Fnatic players instead of allowing them to actually get it 50-50.
Yes, that is very true, but
it happened.
The burst from Caps and the coordination
It's true.
from that mid-jungle synergy.
Nothing you could do against that at all.
If there's anything we've learned from Rift Rivals so long ago, it's that the only thing that matters is mid-jungle synergy.
Exactly.
It's true, and we saw it right then. That's why Fnatic will go to Worlds.
That is why they will go to Worlds.
The team with the best.
I also love that what didn't make our big playlist was Reckless, like, multiple triple kills back-to-back, and it's because it happens so frequently that it's like no longer a highlight worthy. Well, that's going to do it from us here at the caster desk. Let's send it over to Shox for that post-game lobby.
Welcome everyone to the last post-game lobby of the season, where I'm joined by Gilius Yamato Cannon and one of Europe's most recent combatants at World, Reckless from Fnatic. Reckless, I first have to go to you after the emotions in Paris and not being able to play the final and so much at stake today, finally making it. Can you tell me just how it feels and how relieved you are to have made it?
I think it's hard to put it in words, but definitely relief is probably the biggest feeling right now. I feel like I worked harder this year than ever before, and I really tried hard to like make the team work more than ever, because before I think I was very self-focused and I wasn't really putting too much like time into working on maybe my synergy with my support, for example, or my synergy with my jungler. And I think I was just trying to develop more so that we had more tools when these kind of games would come around, so we wouldn't be so one-dimensional. And yeah, I mean, it just feels really good, because on one hand, I really feel like if we didn't make it this time around, that I would maybe reconsider like continue playing, because I feel like at this point, after being to Worlds twice as well, if I don't make it 2 years in a row, then you know, it just feels like I'm not really accomplishing anything and I'm spending so much time. So I'm really happy that we made it, because now it once again feels like I have a new goal in my career.
Yeah, you do. A big event coming up, fantastic opportunity. When you talk about how much emotions that are involved, obviously on you and on all 5 players and on the staff, the pressure was probably immense. And then you have to wait for a bit. You have to see H2K play those 2 matches beforehand. So what was the process the last couple of days? How did you try and keep calm but still prepare enough and not over-prepare and not drive yourself crazy?
I think playing H2K was actually good for us. I think we weren't really panicking or anything watching them beat both Splice and Unicorns, because I think pretty much everyone in the team feels more uncomfortable playing against Splice or Unicorns. First of all, because we have bad records against them. I think we're 1-1 against both teams in this year, and it really just doesn't match up well with our style. And also because we beat H2K in Paris, so we were pretty happy with them winning both on Friday and Saturday, and that we would have to play them today. And I don't really think they showed anything new either. I think they just did what they did against us in Paris, but maybe a little bit better. So we weren't really feeling anything special about today. We were just really focused on what we needed to do and what kind of issues we had in Paris. And I think we covered up some of them, but definitely in Game 2 we could have had a better draft or a smarter draft, because I think we kind of just put ourselves in a position where one team has Saya and one doesn't. That's just kind of it, you know, like it doesn't get much more from it. So.
Well,
yeah.
I wanted to mention that game too specifically. I had our analyst here, and Gilios was saying, I feel like Broxah is not really entirely in the right setting yet. He's trying to get into the game, and then that steal happens, and everything turns around. So you said it was very impactful, and Reckless, I also just want to know, was that a moment in the team where the communication just went like, Brox is happy, it's all good, let's try and turn this game around?
Well, we kind of knew that we always could win because we had Sivir. So like once it gets to 4-item stage, you can always win. But we didn't really have any good ideas in the early / mid game. We always felt like they had pressure on more lanes than we did, and they always had like the proactive move. So we're kind of just trying to farm it up while not losing too much at once. But I think we were too hesitant. We didn't really like swap in time, and we didn't really like trade Herald for Dragon or anything like that. They just got Herald for free, and then bot tower for free, and then top tower for free, and it just never ended. So we really felt like if we didn't get that Nash, then probably would have lost the game. So shout outs to Broxah, obviously. And after we got the Nash, like, I mean, as I said, Sivir is a late game champ, so we reached the late game, and then we just won some team fights. So
yeah, I think that Nash steal was such a shift of momentum because after you go 1 game 2, I saw Jankos on the cam, and he was like super sad because he lost the 50-50 smite. So I mean, if they won that game, it would have been maybe different series, maybe 3-2 for you guys. But yeah, that was the tilter for them.
Gilius was actually a big fan of you during the series. He said, why do they keep giving Reckless Tristana in those games? And if this goes to 50 minutes, Reckless is going to carry. So you had God Gilius supporting you. So maybe that played into everything. All right, so let's move on to what is up next for Fnatic. You guys are going to Worlds and to the Worlds play-ins. First up, you will start there. So let's take a look at the competition there for, well, we have everything filled in for the play-ins outside of the NA LCS representative as a 3rd seed, which will be either CLG or C9. So just to quickly explain how this will go, out of all these 2 teams, they will go into 4 groups of 3. But the pool 3 seed, so WE, Hong Kong Attitude, Fnatic, as well as the 3rd seed from NALCS will not be able to meet each other. Then the top 2 of each group, so top 2 out of 3, will go into a draw, and then you have to play 1 best of 5. If you win that, you move on to the next stage. So Yamato, first thoughts of kind of the first hurdle that is up for Fnatic and the teams in play-ins?
I feel like looking at these teams, I am not too well researched about the smaller regions, but the one that sticks out the most for me has to be Gambit. I think if anyone's going to shake things up in this bracket, it has to be Gambit because they have players with a lot of experience. Diamond Prox on the case, Edward, also Kira, PvP Steos. I like this roster. I feel like maybe they can shake things up with some strange picks and come up with something different.
For sure. As an example, a group could be Fnatic, Gambit, Fenerbahce. And then you guys would have to play.
I wouldn't like
group.
that.
You wouldn't like. I mean,
no, we scrimmed Gambit and they looked really good. So.
Oh, all right. So you
I mean, that's the only team we scrimmed, so I cannot talk for the others. But Gambit actually looked like LCS caliber, so I'm not sure about the others if they're worse or anything like that. But I just really felt like Diamond Prox was still Diamond Prox, you know, and Edward was still Edward, and it didn't really feel like it would be an easy road for us.
Wherever they end up, you see Gambit making it to the next stage of Worlds?
Possibly, yeah. I think definitely they can be one of the 4 teams making it through.
For you guys, obviously, first time appearance since 2015. You finally made it. What's the plan now? Are you guys going to boot camp straight away, or are you then going to China?
Actually, I have no idea.
Okay.
The thing is, before the Misfit series, we were talking a lot about like Korean boot camp, and we were talking a lot about, you know, potential groups at Worlds, and we're already kind of there in our heads. Like we're already qualified to Worlds, already making plans for what we were going to do before. And after we lost that series, it just felt like it was, you know, devastating. Too many consequences at once. So before today, we just kept reminding ourselves that we aren't going to talk about what's going to happen after the series because it's just going to put us in a bad state of mind. And we really just want to be here today, focus on winning. And, you know, now we're just going to have to talk about the rest. But I'm happy that we took that sort of like learning experience from before.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure that the arrangements are already in place. And now it's non-stop for you guys. You're going to train and then straight to play-ins. Gilius, do you see Fnatic falling in the play-in stage? And who's your kind of outsider?
Yeah, I think Gambit looks a bit dangerous. Like, I don't think you should underestimate any team here because they can pull out a random cheese, you know, and then
obviously
it goes
the
down
Team
really
WE
quickly.
is in here as well.
But yeah, Fnatic should sweep through this tournament if they respect the enemies. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's been something the past couple of days when we talked about Fnatic that often came up, that possibly when you guys were doing so good, it's much harder to improve. And it's much harder, G2 has also always said this, if you're constantly winning, it's much harder to pinpoint, okay, where do we have to improve? How can we improve our vision and stuff like that? So now that you come off such a high, 3-0 versus H2K, it was all relatively easy. How will you make sure that you have the right mindset in the next couple of weeks?
Well, I think LCS and Worlds is really different, so I don't think it will be much of a problem. I think in LCS, it's easy to get complacent. You're winning this one game a week, and it really just feels like everything is going your way. But I think, for example, Rift Rivals is kind of similar schedule to the play-ins or Worlds. So with us learning so much from what we did back then, we weren't really adaptive. We weren't really talking about like what we could do better for the next day because we're so used to the LCS schedule. I think we'll be just much more prepared for the schedule that's going to come up now, and I think we won't really have the same issues as we had before. But yeah, I mean, you can never really know until you really get there and you really get to see these teams because, as I said, I don't really know anything about any team other than Gambit.
I think you guys are really good when you play on one patch, Like you have problems adapting to different patches, but when you play on one patch, you guys are really good. So I think Worlds is going to be good for Fnatic. Yeah,
you mentioned explicitly Broxa, I think. You think he could get really good if he's comfortable.
Yeah, Broxa is an example. When he spams a few champs, he's really good on them. And when you guys have a good read on the meta, you're really good on the few champs you play. So I think it's really good for you guys.
Well, if you guys make it through the playing stage, you'll make it to the next stage. Let's take a look at the groups then for World Championship and who is qualified already. And let's do a little bit of a thought exercise for possible groups. So I did a bit of a G2, Samsung, TSM, WE could be a group. Fnatic, IMT, RNG. Yeah, those are all interesting combination, so to say. So Yamato, you already said, oof, what jumped out?
I think the main question is it good to be a first seed? Because you can run into SKT and Samsung, and then you consider yourself if you're a second seed. Longzhu is the one you want to avoid. I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe it's better to be a second seed. Maybe it is.
We have seen in previous years that sometimes it wasn't bad to be a second seed. Of course, obviously, remember that in this, you can't meet someone from your region, so you wouldn't have a Longzhu SKT in the same group. So that would set SKT up to meet G2 even if they bounced. So let's talk about our other European teams. First up, G2 Esports, Yamato. MSI, Redemption, they did great, but we're further. We saw ups and downs, but a very strong finish from them in the playoffs.
I think what was so crazy about MSI was it was so close in the end. Like, it was very close. It could have ended either way. TSM could have been the team that gone through, but I think the big question mark with G2 is best of ones. I think that's where they are weak. If they come in swinging right off the get-go, they pick up a couple of best of one wins, then I think they might be fine. But usually the group stage is where they struggle the most because adaptation is where I think G2 is the strongest.
Yeah, best of ones are tricky. Reckless, what do you think of your G2 mates?
I think I'm a bit biased because every time we play them, both on stage and in LCS, I mean in scrims, we've had a lot of success. So I don't really feel like the same, I think, as everyone else feels about them winning the split and all that again. But definitely, like, G2 is probably our best representative because they have been around before, like they've been to Worlds before as a group, they've been to MSI together as a group, so they have the experience needed to be able to get through a stage like this. But yeah, as they said, best of ones is not their friend, so it might be tough. But
we'll see. Logically, you would say G2 is the best representative. Do you guys think that in Fnatic, with some of the experience you guys have on the roster and the ceiling that you might have, you guys could grow into being the best hope for Europe throughout the tournament?
I mean, I think it's possible for both us and Misfits, but it's just hard to call either of us like the best team in Europe when G2 has just been so dominant for so long, and they've been there before and they know, what needs to be done to get through the stage. So yeah, it's just hard to call it for anyone else, but definitely we can be like someone that people will have to look out for. But with us being a pool 3 as well, it might be a bit unlucky in the group draw. You never really know.
Hey, if you do great, you have a tough group and you get through that, then
but Origin did the same. They went pool 3 and they still made it, so I still have hope.
And that was the year where we had both Fnatic and Origin in the semi-finals, so everything can happen. Gilius, when I said Fnatic could grow throughout the tournament, you definitely nodded. Do you think that's a possibility?
I think our best team out of Europe will be Fnatic in Worlds, just because of G2's past in international tournaments and the group stages. I don't have much hope in Misfits, personally, but I think G2 and Fnatic will be teams to look out for from Europe.
So Misfits obviously one-year plan. They did make it. Yamato, do you agree with Gilius or are we underestimating them?
I think I have to agree. I think they're good at reading patches and understanding very quickly what is the best. But I think coming into the World Championship, everyone's going to have a lot of time to prepare. So this advantage is no longer their only advantage. Like then you have to start looking at star power, at mechanical players, and this tournament is stacked. So that is when it comes into questions. And I just feel like they will falter on that point.
Yeah, it is stacked. It's also Misfits in this lineup. It is their first year, Reckless. So what should their expectations be, you think, in this tournament?
I mean, for my first year, I didn't make it out of groups. And I think it was maybe a bit weird of me to think that I would get out of groups. I'm not really sure. So I don't think they should really expect either. I mean, obviously, they should try their hardest. But it's just when you look at these teams, you don't really think of Misfits as a team to make it to top 8. That's just how it is.
So hopefully, or maybe all the other teams definitely underestimate them and then they can make a magical run. You say the first time. How much what would you say is the biggest change in Reckless as a player since the first time you stepped on that stage and now going back?
I think I'm just more calm, more chill. I think before I was really like hot on my heels, sort of. You know, if ever something went wrong, I would just panic and I didn't know what to do. And then I would think like, what if we don't win this game? Then this and this will happen, and you never really stop. You know, it just keeps on going until you're out of groups. So I think I'm much more chill now. And if anything, this is like a time for me to be able to lead my team to Worlds. Like I should be able to use my experience to my advantage or to our advantage, and to get through play-ins and then maybe pull an Origin. Never really know, but I definitely feel much better about this Worlds than before.
Great. I have a question. Can it happen that Fnatic ends up with the first seed of China?
If you look at Fnatic, yeah, they totally could, of course, because they could end up in a group with
that would be nice, right?
Flash Wolves.
Yeah, that's where Flash Wolves, I guess.
Flash Wolves, RNG.
Since we cannot get G2.
Wait, that's insane.
Yeah.
If it's Flash Wolves or China, then
You just
easy.
get
No, not easy, but you can win, you know?
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, I still have like good hopes for this tournament for us.
So you think that LPL first seed and Fnatic would be the worst case scenario? I kind of feel like any of these, everything seems...
I mean, yeah, SKT, Samsung, Longzhu, these teams are scary, but yeah.
I think if you get Flash Wolves and a Korean team, then that's a group of death right there.
I'm just trying not to get too much into it, you know, because I want to focus on play on
Definitely,
play-ins
let's hide this from Reckless. First,
But I get your point.
If we take a step back, though, biggest contenders here, obviously SKT is in that pool too for this time around. Longzhu looks very impressive as well. So what are we thinking? Is anyone but SKT winning this year, Yamato?
I think Longzhu, like in the series, sure, they beat SKT and things are going to look a lot different coming into a tournament. SKT have a history of preparing very well, but Longzhu, I feel like they took the meta to the next step. Everyone's playing tanks. They're playing the kind of carnivore champions that like to eat these tanks up, and they did it very well. They're willing to play the Talia, which was on a different patch. Sure got nerfed, but I think they're willing to play those counter matchups, take those massive risks that if something goes wrong, the game is over, but they're willing to play that, and I think that's a big thing for Longzhu.
I think Longzhu and SKT are looking like the best teams coming into the tournament, but I think SKT will come out ahead because the mid laner of Longzhu, BDD, I don't know, he's like 18 or 17 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he never played internationally, so I don't know what to expect from him. Like, I don't think that such a young rookie is going to come in and just destroy everyone in Worlds, so...
That's what happened with Faker.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Faker is...
Faker is
special.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where you separate the champions from the not champions, you know? If we think of our examples, for instance, we had Febiven at MSI 2 years ago. Fantastic versus Faker, for instance. So this is where we'll see it, and the potential is huge.
Febiven did really well until a point, right? Like, they got knocked out in the end. Like, if you...
Yeah, they didn't win MSI.
I mean, yeah. That's what I think. Like, Longzhu will, of course, have the chance to make finals. I think so. But winning the whole thing, we will see.
We will see, but it will be very interesting Worlds. Gilius, obviously, next year you're on this graphic here, or?
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
It was very calm. You were very calm the last couple of days. Well, we'll see. Well, thank you guys very much for talking to me. Of course, my analyst and Reckless, thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you in China at the World Championship, and that will do it from us here in Berlin. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. It's the last show from our studio this year, and you'll be able to join us for Worlds with the play-ins starting in 2 weeks already. Have a great night, and we'll see you in China.
Nice to have as well. Puts Fnatic in a bit of a pickle if they want to go for. Never mind. Aurelion soul time. Well, Exhaust is down. Nuclear running for his life. Reckless hungry for the kill. Is this going to be the first blood taken down? He's getting his hands on it again, and it's looking good. Moving for more. That's the second kill.
Nice job, guys.
Comment of legend. Both carries are fighting together. Jesus in the middle of everything. Shockwave pulls back, but it's only going to hit a tank. It does not matter. Eyes on Reckless. He is still up. Feast does not matter. All of Fnatic just doing whatever they want to this H2K lineup. That's going to be the triple. H2K had a few shots. They fought back once or twice, but it was not enough here in game one. Fnatic moving forward. They're going to take the edge in this series. Miasma, is he going to block the entrance? 2K, that's going to be brought down. He does get it! Broxa! That's the hero Fnatic needs, but now they have to face the fight.
Nice, guys. Nice.
Good job. Just like streams, guys.
Soaz is here for a meal, but it's going to be Reckless ripping through the towers. It's going to be Fnatic finding a way to turn it around, and while Soaz goes for the cheeky 1v1, the team is just looking to end the game. Fnatic will move up 2-0. Backshay is now in trouble, and it looks like he will drop. The heel comes out. Reckless. Flash forward. Jez is moving in. First blood for the Janna. Stack will get locked up. He's just going to use the cleanse. Slow and steady on the Yankos. Lots of... Oh.
Look at the face of frustration there on Jankos.
Doing what he can to keep moving forward in the fight. H2K retreating strong as 5. So much damage, but no, he wants to turn it back. Nuclear still hitting the backline for free. Shen blocking what he can. Reckless is firing back. Caps is firing back. Donovan is running for his life. He's looking to get the bounces. He's looking to keep it going. He wants to go to Worlds.
23.5 minutes. Fnatic are going to take the 3-0.
And it was not choking for H2K. It was Fnatic proving themselves worthy of that spot in Worlds. It is the 3-0. It is the third seed. It is Fnatic back on the world stage.